Hello. Who jumped? Who jumped? Who did I make jump? How are we doing? We're gonna watch the Helen Webberley Kelly J. Keane debate in a sec. I can't wait. I can't wait. It sounds like it's gonna be extremely epic. Ah. Oh, you can't hear that. You can't hear that. It's fine. I had YouTube open to do the goal thing, and it started playing back, but my sound was turned off, so it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. What else have we got? What else have we got? I'll probably just watch that and that'll be it. It's been, I don't know, real life stuff. A lot going on at the moment. It is what it is. I'll stream when I can and I'll post videos when I can, I guess. There was the Frida Wallace thing. I was potentially going to talk to Frida Wallace sometime this week, but she decided to pull out. She pretty much confirmed to me that she doesn't think that she was actually upskirted, which raises the same question that I brought up with Amaya, which is, well, why would you go on a podcast, have someone push that narrative and not push back on it unless you're being dishonest, which I firmly believe this person is being dishonest. And they wanted to talk to me about all that, I guess. Didn't end up happening, I think probably because I would have actually tried to hold them to account. There's this kind of, I feel like she's doing this kind of rebellious punk rock, like anti-establishment kind of thing. But that doesn't really gel with crying victim because someone shares a picture of you where you can see the top of their thigh or whatever. Like if you're punk rock, rebellious, whatever, you'd be like, yeah, so what, you know? I showed up to this thing getting drunk and dressed like a hooker because I don't respect the premise of the debate. I don't respect the people that are there, you know what I mean? But that's not what she did. And she's going on with this narrative that she doesn't even believe herself. So I don't know. Probably not much point wasting any more time with it. It's kind of what I'm coming away with. She wants to correct the record. She's more than welcome to. She doesn't want to. That's what I think. It does mean that comment she left about, oh, talk to me instead of behind my back didn't age very well because we didn't end up speaking beyond like a few DMs. So hey, we had some fun. We had the ridiculous fucking Amaya conversation from it. The original video got a few views, which is good. I'm just kind of taking what I can get at this point. But yeah, I don't know. The other thing is, I do wanna do a more broad piece about like mostly older male, often wealthy trans activists in the UK. So I think they're a bit of a blight, to be honest. But anyway, we were gonna watch this debate. Make sure you like the stream. Don't forget you can super chat on YouTube or Streamlabs. You can join the channel for a few pounds a month. Check out the links in my description. I have music and other stuff. All that stuff. I don't know. All support is very welcome right now. Jesus Christ. Anyway, yeah, we're watching Trans debate goes off the rails with Kelly J. Keane and Dr. Helen Webberley on trigonometry. So this will be interesting because I do not like either of these people. I don't like Helen Webberley at all. I have a video, in fact, explaining a lot of my issues with Helen Webberley. I made a video. It got quite a few views actually. I'm quite proud of it. It's the longest written thing that I've ever done. This one right here. Can you see? Can you see? So I made this video about Helen Webberley, going through all like the court cases and stuff. Her husband getting struck off and her getting suspended, her license being revoked or whatever. I went through a bunch of her ridiculous rhetoric on social media. I think it came out really well. People are still watching and like commenting once in a while, which is much appreciated. So I know a decent amount about Helen Webberley. And what I find is she goes on these like more right-wing platforms. She went on GB News. She went on Talk TV, I think, with Julia Hartley-Brewer. And most of those kinds of people just like absolutely suck at holding her to account. There was a really telling moment in the Julia Hartley-Brewer one where Helen Webberley's like, oh, you should look more at my social media, and Julia Hartley-Brewer is like, no, I don't think I will. When to me it's like, well, no, you should be looking there, because there's a lot of insanity on there. There's a lot of stuff that you look at it and it's actually quite objectionable. You could probably do a decent amount of actual work, like, you know, exposing some of it, but they don't want to. They just want the easy goal. They just want the easy owns. Here's a pro-trans person, I'm a right-winger. They don't actually have to try, and that sucks. You know, when you actually do have to try, you get fuck all views. When you don't have to try, you get all the views, but then it's shit, you know what I mean? But anyway. So we've got Helen Webberley. I do not like Helen Webberley. I think her business model is insane. There's almost no gatekeeping. There's almost no safeguarding. If you say you're trans, you are trans. All that kind of stuff. We'll see, I'm sure. I'm sure she'll be able to explain some of her more ridiculous position. I don't like Kelly J. Keane either. I just tend to agree with her on the trans issue to an extent. Like, she's a lot further than me. She's like a TERF and stuff, and I'm not a TERF at all. Surprised some of the more vocal TERFs haven't picked it up. Yeah, I mean, I think at least some of them. Like, I'm trans. They're never gonna fuck with me, you know what I mean? The only way that those kinds of people would fuck with me is if I was literally like a buck angel type, and I ain't that, you know what I mean? I'm not that. Anyway, Kelly J. Keane. Yeah, the thing is, if this was like more of a general political debate, there's every chance I would agree more with Helen Webberley than Kelly J. Keane. Because she's like pretty far right these days, and that's just not me. That's just not me. I don't like Reform, I don't like Restore. I'm not a big fan of the Tories even. It's just not my thing. I don't like a lot of the stuff she gets up to. But at the same time, if we're talking about trans issues and we're talking about things like transitioning kids and what a woman is and stuff like that, I'm probably going to end up agreeing with Kelly J. Keane more than Helen Webberley. But I'm not a fan of either of these people. But anyway, we're going to watch. Let's check out this video, like the stream, super chat, subscribe, join the channel, all that stuff. Let's go.
You would do that on the feelings of a child. Do you understand how absolutely disgusting most people would think that is?
Well, I don't think that you're right that most people would.
What's the minimum number of sessions?
There's no minimum. There's no minimum.
So someone can have one session. One session. And you just go, okay, you got gender dysphoria, off you go.
Yeah, why not?
At least she's honest.
You're completely wrong in all of your medical evaluation there, and that's why non-medics shouldn't get involved in medicine.
Hal Shipman was a doctor, although I will be fair, he didn't touch kids.
The way to cure the distress of these people is to stop people like you with your discriminatory, prejudiced and biased attitudes. They cost lives. Misgendering is a hate crime.
So what should happen to her?
You can get fined money.
It's fucking retarded, by the way.
You can get put away.
So you'd like me to go to prison?
I'll be honest, any hate crimes that are like, Sammy save me, what the fuck is that? Oh, maybe we'll get onto it. Any hate crimes that are just like someone being mean to another person, I didn't really see the point. I'm sorry. Is there much difference between you calling me a fucking prick and calling me a T-slur? Not really. I don't care.
But prison, I'd love to see it, yeah.
And I would like to see some criminal responsibility for people who have harmed children, like Helen Webberley.
More left-wing than Starmer. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, gender critical has been almost completely like eclipsed by the right at this point. It's just been swallowed up. And I really feel for a lot of the more left-leaning like TERFs and like gender criticals, plenty of whom I have a lot of agreements with, you know.
I would like to see those people criminalised.
Great, you both want each other in prison. Fantastic. Hello and welcome to another trigonometry debate. Today it's on a subject that has been and has become very controversial. It is, of course, the trans conversation. I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Helen Webberley of Gender GP and campaigner and activist Kelly J. Keane. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. Helen, first of all, with you, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your journey into what you do now and what Gender GP does.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So my name's Dr. Helen Webberley. I'm a UK-trained medical doctor. I qualified in 1992 and had a fairly kind of standard journey through medicine. I started off in sexual health. I went into general practice, had my family, and then I was working in a small GP surgery in Wales in 2015 when my apparently first transgender patient came in. She asked me to help her. And I was like, well, I have no idea how to help somebody who wishes to medically transition. Not something that we got taught at medical school, not something that I'd seen in my life. But I'm her doctor and she wanted me to help her, so of course I would. And so when I started looking into it, I found two things. I found absolute fascination with the kind of support that a transgender person can have through their transition. And I also found an absolute travesty in the way that transgender people were being treated in this country, both by society and also by the medical profession themselves. So I set out to change that.
I'll be honest, I transitioned roughly around the same time as she's talking about. I had a decent experience, honestly. I think they explained everything. You have to remember, I was like 25. I was more than old enough to make my own decisions in that regard. I was perfectly fine. Like, it took a while, and it takes even longer now, but you know, it wasn't so bad.
I founded an organisation called Gender GP, which has gone on to help thousands and thousands and thousands.
So yeah, she pretty quickly, after meeting her first ever trans patient, starts up a private clinic that you pay for. So to me, it sounds way more like she meets a trans person, sees the kind of demand that's much higher than the supply, and is like, shit, I could make money off of this. It's very, very easy to see it that way, you know.
Thousands of people have access to medical transition. And more latterly, I don't work in as a medical doctor anymore. I work in education and advocacy, challenging misinformation about gender diversity and showcasing its...
Challenging misinformation pushes the trans genocide. Has said things like your gender identity is determined at the point of conception, which literally is misinformation. There is no evidence for that existing. Like, this is the problem as well. She's not even trans. There are lots of trans people that support people like her, but the amount of utter shit she says on another group's behalf, it's not right when you actually think about it for any length of time. Like with any progressive types, you have to get them past the thing, okay, well, she's helped some trans people, but there are problems, you know what I mean? It's so fucking difficult.
It's beauty.
And when you say, you mentioned Gender GP helping thousands of people, what does help in this context mean exactly?
So there's kind of like, there's different stages of transition. So there's kind of 4 stages. So the
help means they're your customers.
Social transition, which is where somebody might change their name or their pronouns or their clothes or their hair or makeup, the way they present to the world and the way they are seen in the world. That's what we call social transition. There's medical transition, where you stop somebody's natural hormone production and replace it with the other hormone, if you like. So you switch off testicles and instead give estrogen, or switch off the ovaries and instead give testosterone, so that their body can match their gender identity. There's surgical transition. Gender GP doesn't do surgery, but refers for surgery for people who want to make surgical changes to their bodies. And then there's
just sat there like seething.
Surgery for people who want to make surgical.
Listen. I think if I was sat across from Helen Webberley, I'd probably look similar.
Changes to their bodies. And then there's legal
like so fucking grossed out.
Transition, which is your kind of passport and driving license.
Sammy is Helen's AI companion. So she's saying that her... I don't like that at all, man. I don't like that at all. And by the way, it'll be built around the kind of stories she gets told. But like, she's a medical professional. I made this point in my video. She's a medical professional. If you're going to a medical professional with a medical issue, especially something like trans, you are going to like over-egg the pudding as much as you can. That's what people fucking do when they go to the doctor. If you want help with something, if you're like kind of depressed and you want some SSRIs or some shit, you're not going to go in and be like, oh, well, I'm just a little bit depressed and I think that SSRIs might help me a little bit. It's like, no, I'm fucking miserable. No, I'm like, you know, this, that, and the other. So what she hears from trans people is going to be like exaggerated. It's going to be like an exaggerated version of the truth compared to how it actually is. And you'll never know because it's like people expressing internal feelings. So you got to be careful, you know. So this is actually, oh, I don't fucking get it. I don't know why any left-leaners support someone like this. Like, why would you support someone using AI as like a left-leaner and then saying that your AI saves lives? Why would you support someone who seemingly met her first trans person and then a year later is like going on with this business model, like designed to make as much money from them as possible? It's so strange. Anyway, that's gross. I don't like that. If that's what this is, I don't know for sure. Maybe she'll address it in the debate.
And birth certificate, things like that.
And the medical part of it, is your opinion that changes the person's sex, so a female becomes male?
Well, the medical transition doesn't change somebody's sex. Your gender identity is set at birth.
That's completely untrue. There is no evidence to suggest this. And if this is true, she thinks that people who are gender fluid or whatever don't exist. Like, so if you're a detransitioner, your gender identity was always actually your sex assigned at birth. But it's always retroactive. Because you don't know who will detransition. So you're just going on what they say it is now and saying it's fixed from birth. But you don't know which gender identity it is because you don't know if they're going to detransition or not. This is what I mean. She talks complete nonsense. It's like pseudoscience.
Person's sex, so a female becomes male?
Like, the reason people push this like gender identity stuff is because it makes it seem innate, it makes it seem valid, it makes it seem like a real thing. What does it have to be? Like, you're living your life a certain way because you want to be a woman when you're a man. Like, you can fucking do that. And how successful you are depends on a lot of things, mostly your genetics, to be honest. To an extent, how much money you have. But that doesn't mean that it's therefore right to come up with some model of trans that makes it like some innate thing that cannot be questioned. That just doesn't work. Like, fundamentally, it's always going to be a subjective thing that some people kind of believe in and some don't. And some people take further than others. Some people will think you can literally change sex and others don't. That's always going to be a point of contention that will never be fully resolved. But we don't get there by like making up complete like pseudoscience. Because it'll just get debunked in time. It already has been over and over.
Well, the medical transition doesn't change somebody's sex. Your gender identity
That at least is true.
is set at birth.
That is not true.
Or even from conception. We don't know.
That is extremely untrue. We don't know. Why say it if we don't know? Like, we don't know any of this.
So you can't change that.
What she's actually doing is filling trans people's heads with shit. Like, I hope someone asks her to explain this and justify this belief beyond just, oh, well, trans people told me that they felt this way since birth. That's what everyone fucking says. That's what everyone fucking says. And you're going to remember those kind of thoughts and feelings in a certain way because you're looking for evidence that you're trans. You know what I mean? And you don't need evidence. If you want to transition, then transition, you know?
If you're born male, you can't change that. But what medical transition does is it can alter your body. Because if you've got ovaries and your ovaries are producing estrogen, they will give you breasts and periods and a female shape, if you like. But
this is true. We get the kind of the kernel of truth in the middle.
That doesn't really fit with somebody who actually identifies as male. So you're changing the body to match their gender identity.
But you're still male. So someone who was born male who transitions to look more like a woman, they're still male?
No, their gender identity is female. If you ask them, then what they...
So then why does that override like your sex? Why do we place more importance on that when it's just a feeling, when it's something that anyone can claim, and whether it's true or not? might or might not be true.
Gender identity is they say I am female.
But sorry, I'm genuinely confused. I thought you can't change your sex.
Bro, oh, he's so stupid. Why is he doing... I don't, whatever.
When you say you can't change your sex, what do you mean? I mean, the Equality Act...
Has Sammy saved your life yet, Islington? Let me know.
It lists...
I do you mean biologically? You're a doctor. I'm just asking a medical question.
Well, she already said this. Why aren't we drilling down? Why aren't we saying, okay, so why must we favor one over the other, you know?
I'm just trying to clear up because you're confused. I'm trying to clear up.
Yeah. Help me.
Are you saying you can't change your chromosomes, or are you saying you can't change your body anatomy, or are you saying?
Well,
what are you saying?
It's actually, I think, gametes is my understanding of the biology of it, but you definitely can't change your chromosomes, right?
You definitely can't change your chromosomes.
Right.
No.
So then you would be still male. Legally, you can get a document saying you're a woman, but you're not female.
But your gender identity is not dictated.
Oh, she's not gonna be able to like finish the circle, you know what I mean? She's not going to be able to say, she's already said your sex doesn't change. So when he asks, so if you're a male person and go through the steps to transition, you're still male. She's not going to be able to answer yes, even though she's already said that. Interesting.
You would be still male. Legally, you can get a document saying you're a woman, but you're not female.
But your gender identity is not dictated by...
It has they, them pronouns. Ouch. What happens if you call it like a she or a he? Does it get angry? Maybe I should play with that after this. I don't know. I've probably got time.
Your chromosomes or your gametes or your body shape.
Or gender identity, no, but
what did she say?
Understanding the biology of it, but you definitely can't change your chromosomes, right?
You definitely can't change your chromosomes,
right.
no.
So then you would be still male. Legally, you can get a document saying you're a woman, but you're not female.
It's a bit of a weird standard, by the way. Well, if you can't change your chromosomes, you can't change sex. Like, to me, it's more, I think I would grant that someone has changed sex if they go from one reproductive role to the other, which cannot be done. So I don't think you can change sex. You know what I mean?
But your gender identity is not dictated by your chromosomes or your gametes or your body shape.
Or gender identity, no, but male and female are biological.
It's not dictated. Again, we need so much more information. Gender identity is just whatever you want it to be. It's whatever these people want it to be. It's the magical kind of key that opens every door. And a door presents with a different lock. Oh, well, it can actually fit that one too. It just, you just put it in anyway.
Categories, right?
Do you mean, so you mean biological?
That's why I said sex, right?
Sex.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I asked you, can you change sex? And you said no.
Yeah, and then she moves it to gender identity. Oh, well, your gender identity. So why does gender identity like override sex? Why do you place more emphasis on that when it's something completely unobservable? Why would we then want to make laws that consider people male or female based on their identity rather than their sex, when it's much easier to define someone by their sex in the majority of cases, like ignoring intersex for a minute, which is only a small handful of people anyway. That's what we need to get to. Like, we're just kind of going in circles at the moment. She's being pedantic. She's going to be pedantic. You'd think he'd do his homework and understand that. I guess to an extent he is at least trying to pin down that we're talking about sex, but she's already answered this question, man.
And then when I asked you if a trans woman is female or male, you said they're female.
Let me explain.
Okay.
It's very difficult because the language is confusing, right? Okay, so if we go back to kind of basic law, look at the Equality Act, and there are 9 protected characteristics. And the
She just sat there. How long is it before Kelly J. Keane gets to talk? Okay, we'll get onto children soon. Jesus Christ. It'll kick off soon, I'm sure.
The Equality Act says if you reassign your sex, okay, so that's the kind of the only words we have written down. You reassign your sex. So UK law understands that people reassign their sex. So the sex that...
But the Equality Act doesn't recognise you as a woman necessarily just because you're a male with a GRC saying as such. It gives you certain privileges you wouldn't have without one. You marry in your new sex or whatever, but it doesn't really apply to like spaces and stuff. It's what you were recorded at birth. You don't really get to like retroactively change what you were born as,
that was recorded and the gender that was recorded on their birth certificate, you can say, actually, that was a mistake. I had no say in that when I was born.
No, it wasn't a mistake, was it? Like, what does this mean?
So the sex that was recorded...
Yeah. You didn't have a say as a freshly born baby as to what sex was put on your birth certificate. Why would you have a say? They record what they see, and they have to do that. You know what I mean? They need to know what you were born with, because that's going to heavily inform how your doctor treats you. This is where we get to the kind of stuff where I can't tell if she's grifting or if she's genuinely picked up some insane beliefs, you know?
And the gender that was recorded on their birth certificate, you can say, actually, that was a mistake. I had no say in that.
That's fucking retarded. It's not a mistake. It's a mistake if they think that you were male but actually you were female, or vice versa. It's not a mistake because you think you're the other sex or because you'd rather have been the other sex, you know? Doesn't make any sense.
When I was born, and I would like to reassign my sex. And you know, people thought I was going to be a boy, but actually I'm a girl. So
people thought I was a boy, but actually I'm a girl. If you follow this woman's logic, trans is a form of delusion. I'm sorry, it fucking is. I don't know, man. At no point did I ever think I'm literally female. I was literally actually a girl, and I grew up in a boy's body when actually I'm a girl, and now I'm a woman. That to me is delusional. I'm trans. I know what the fuck I am, you know? I want to live my life a certain way. I hate the way that these people talk about this. And I don't understand why more people don't listen to this kind of person. On kind of more my side of the aisle, and don't think there's a lot of fucking problems here. This doesn't make any sense.
So that's the kind of key words we have in UK
Well, that's
law.
legal. I'm just asking scientifically and biologically.
So are you asking,
We're never going to get there, but she's already answered anyway.
can somebody be transgender? Is that what you're asking? I don't understand what you're saying. What your confusion
I asked
is.
you whether puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones make somebody the opposite sex, and you said no.
No.
But when I asked you if they are then the opposite sex, you said yes. And that's what I'm confused about.
Let me clear
No,
up.
she changed the answer. It was well, no, their gender identity is that. So she changed she moved the goalposts, you know.
Your confusion.
Yes, thank you.
So your hormones don't make you change sex. Hormones will change the shape of your body.
Yes.
Will give you breasts. Will give you facial hair. Will maybe make your muscles bigger, depending on which way you go. So hormones don't
You have to sign up after about 5 questions. Oh, fuck that, man. Fuck that.
change your sex. You can't. That doesn't work like that.
Okay.
And you can't change your gender identity. It's
I'm glad we spent minutes on this. You can't change your gender. Yes, you can. You literally can. How do you mean you can't change your gender identity? What is gender identity then? Is he going to ask any relevant questions here?
That doesn't work like that.
Okay.
And you can't change your gender identity. It's fixed from when you were born. And you
where does this come from? Is anyone going to fucking get into this?
You can't change it. What the mistake and the confusion is that we assign a label on a child when it is first born and say, aha, you've got a penis, so therefore you're going to be a boy. But actually when that
99.95% of the time, I think it is, your birth sex is recorded correctly.
person develops, they're like, that was wrong. I'm not a boy. I'm a girl.
Okay, we've talked about quite a lot
Yeah, again, literally delusional. It's not how almost any trans people think.
there. Any thoughts?
God, it's so much nonsense, isn't it? It's really difficult to keep up with the dishonesty of swapping. So you can be the opposite sex, but you're not really the opposite sex, and you can't change sex, but you do change sex, and it's not really sex. And then the idea that you don't really understand the questions you're asking because you said, well, I'm confused about... But
Well, hold on, but address the arguments. I mean, the idea that people have a gender identity, it doesn't match their body, and doctors like Helen will help them to overcome that. What's wrong with that?
Well, I think it's nonsense. I think the whole thing is nonsense. And I think just the way Helen just illustrated that is just the kind of changing of the goalpost mid-sentence. So you are born male or female, and you have a personality. And sometimes that personality will fit some stereotype of what a man is and what a woman is, and sometimes it won't. And sometimes you may experience some sort of trauma, which means that you want to disassociate from whatever you are. And if you can do that by saying, well, I'm no longer that person, I'm the opposite sex, I kind of get that. There's all sorts of things that people do. They might starve themselves, they can cut themselves. And
I mean, putting it all on trauma is kind of reductive. There's a lot of different reasons why people might transition.
they might decide that they're the opposite sex. But that's all that all should exist in a social sort of let's help that person, not in a let's feed them full of puberty blockers, which have a dramatic impact, not just on genitals and sexual and sort of the development of fertility, but also on things like pruning the brain when you go through puberty, in cognitive development.
It's a good thing to bring up. It's a good thing. We know almost nothing about this. Anyone saying puberty blockers are fully reversible, we don't know that. And we know very little about how puberty blockers affect brain development. Because your puberty kind of coincides with your brain kind of going through like heightened plasticity, where like some of the pathways that you formed as a kid get pruned off and others become stronger. Your personality kind of develops that way. You develop stronger preferences towards certain things and you stop caring about some things that you used to as a kid, you know what I mean? That kind of thing, we don't actually know really how blocking puberty affects it, you know what I mean?
And all those other things that doctors or people like Helen, they will advocate that that is a good idea to do that to children. Now, when you're talking about older patients, I don't agree with like Brazilian butt lifts, right? I think there's lots of things that we shouldn't do that are very unhelpful to human beings, but we do them. And we sort of say that when you're big and ugly enough and you've earned enough money, you can pay for the medical industry, private medical industry. I don't think it should be on the NHS.
Well, it is on the NHS, suck it.
You can pay for someone to do things that are quite frankly pretty...
In general, I agree with her though. Once you're an adult, it shouldn't fucking matter. You want to grow breasts as a male and get your penis inverted. You're not really harming anyone, you know what I mean? Maybe it'll help you with whatever issue you're doing it because of. And I guess I get the arguments for why it shouldn't be on the NHS, but I think there's an awful lot of stuff that's on the NHS that you could make the case shouldn't be.
Pretty grotesque. However, the children aspect, and we're just discussing the whole puberty blocker trial, I think is barbaric and child abuse, and I think anyone involved in that industry is a child abuser.
Helen,
I don't know if I agree with child abuse, but I don't agree with transitioning kids. I think fundamentally it's kind of expecting way too much of children, putting way too much stock in this idea of gender identity, which I really fucking hope one of these two will ask her to explain. Like putting way too much stock into that idea when it's changeable. When children especially change their minds on stuff. Like I just said, you know, when you go through puberty, your brain starts changing in certain ways. You're going to change your mind potentially. It's more likely. And you're not at an age where you can consent to, you know what you're getting in for necessarily.
you have been involved in that industry. Has Gender GP provided these hormones and puberty blockers, obviously, to people under 18?
Well, if I might just respond to what Kelly was saying there.
Sure, please.
You know, it's very easy for somebody who can sit on the outskirts over there saying, oh, she shouldn't have a Brazilian butt lift. Oh, she shouldn't medically transition. She shouldn't do that. That child shouldn't be allowed to do that. And it's like, you know, you're so far away from a person sitting with their doctor making medical decisions. And I don't know where people like Kelly get this license from, that she can have such an opinion on other people's lives. I think that's...
Of course you can have an opinion on other people's lives. But she was saying with adults, like, well, I don't agree with you doing that, but you can do it if you want. And when she uses like Brazilian butt lift as an example, I think for whatever reason, whether Helen's deliberately or not deliberately missing this, but like Brazilian butt lifts are dangerous. People die of that shit.
You know, overstepping the boundaries,
everybody
really.
does. Everybody has opinions on what people do, especially when we do it as a society and we sanction the wholesale child abuse of children with puberty blockers. Of course I've got an opinion on that.
You can have your opinion over there, but as a doctor, I will sit with my patient and family here and actually talk about what we want without this kind of.
But she's not a doctor anymore. She's a educator and a advocate, right?
Judgmental. I don't.
So, is she really in any more of an authoritative position anymore?
Think Brazilian butt lifts should exist. You know, whoa! You don't have to have one. You don't have to have one. But
yeah, that's literally what she said. Like, if you're an adult, go ahead. I just think it's dumb.
What do you mean, whoa?
It's not your decision to decide whether somebody else does that.
It's not my decision, but as an advocate for children, child safeguarding and women's rights, then of course I have an opinion.
You see there? And there we hear it. It's women's rights.
Yes, it is.
So actually, and what this all boils down to is women's rights.
Not my decision, but as an advocate for children, child safeguarding and women's rights, then of course I have an opinion.
You see there? And there we hear it. It's women's rights.
It would have been good if she was able to finish this. You could quite easily tie in, being that we mentioned BBLs, you could quite easily tie in like some of the harmful effects of things like Instagram and stuff, like constantly seeing women who've had this, that, and the other procedure done to look very slightly more perfect or ideal or whatever. And like all the filtering and like, you know, photo contouring and stuff that goes on. You could definitely tie that into women's rights.
Right.
Yes, it is.
So actually, and what this all boils down to is women's rights. And I don't know where the butt lift.
It doesn't all boil down to women's rights either. Women's rights are affected by like trans issues. Arguably not things like, well, I don't know, you could say child transition because it's mostly like girls, but
comes into women's rights. But transgender people, they exist. They deserve to exist freely within our society.
It's virtue signaling.
And they deserve to have access to medical intervention with their doctor without other people going, I don't think they should do that.
Well, I mean,
people can think that. That's their right. I don't think someone should transition. I have a right to think that.
The reason I think this has become a debate is public debates are always about what the laws should be, what societal attitudes should be, and therefore it's natural that people who are watching this will be listening to both of you and trying to form their opinion. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, I think it's true to say that everybody will have an opinion on these things. And I think that the difficulty is for a lot of people where, you know, I'm a kind of an old school liberal about things. I'm like, you're an adult, do whatever you want. I respect people's right to do whatever they want.
Constantine has talked way too much so far.
But prior to you being an adult, there are lots and lots of things that we do not allow children to do. We do not allow them to smoke. We do not allow them to drink.
Should children transition? This section is apparently about to end. They've barely talked about it.
Alcohol, we do not allow them to vote. They can't sign up for the military until a certain age, which probably is too young anyway, because they're not fully formed brain-wise by that point. And so for a lot of parents in particular that I've spoken to, the idea that their child at 11 can be going through a very difficult time, be confused about lots of things, as young people often are, and suddenly end up on a path to medically altering their body, that's terrifying. Would you accept that?
I think the thing is with
people often are, and suddenly end up on a path to medically altering their body, that's terrifying. Would you accept that?
I think the thing is with paediatric care is it's difficult. You've got children, and luckily we mostly have supportive families. And so whether it's making decisions about how that child is born, should there be a cesarean section or a natural vaginal birth, that's one decision that child has no input into. Vaccinations, that child is taken, their thigh is given, and they are injected. They have no say into that. The parents decide yes or no on that child. For asthma, for diabetes, for cancer, if a child breaks its arm or then they were screaming, going, no, get off me, but we will put a cast on their arm. We make decisions for children, and so the family and the child throughout paediatric medical care make difficult decisions. And sometimes, for example, there's been very famous legal cases about Jehovah's Witnesses who will refuse for their child to have a blood transfusion because of their religious beliefs, and the doctors will override that because we do best in his interest for the child. So when you put it's as you
very different to whether a child should transition or not, giving them like a literal, actual life-saving procedure.
say, society and the public have an opinion, but luckily we have medically trained, scientific, critically analytical doctors who can make the proper decisions with families and patients. And sometimes we...
What kind of answer is this? She's on a British show as a British person, talking to another British person, and then Constantine, who I don't think is British, but is, based here or whatever. This doesn't exist here. You can't do this. Not in the sense of like transitioning someone.
Involve the law as well.
That's the challenge, isn't it? Because, as you say, the Jehovah's Witness example is kind of where the rubber meets the road, because ultimately, if you are dealing with a family who are not supportive, you believe that doctors should overrule their view on that and should facilitate medical transition for children against the wishes of the parents?
So what we have in this country, some countries have a legal age where a child cannot consent for medical intervention under that age. You have to wait for until you're that age. In the UK, we don't have that. So Gillick competence was obviously the kind of...
I'm pretty sure it was her husband who, one of the things that the tribunal found was that he was failing to establish Gillick competency for some of his child patients.
The most famous example of that, where a young girl wanted contraception and her mother didn't want her to have contraception, but she showed that she was able to give her consent to have contraception without her mother's wish.
It's a much less invasive thing than changing gender.
So in the UK, we don't have a legal age. What we do is we have capacity to consent. So if a young person, people like...
Surely the capacity consent depends on the kind of treatment as well as other things. Like, would you be able to get capacity to consent to getting like a boob job at 14? Especially if your boobs are like perfectly normal.
Kelly will be like, oh my God, they're 8 and they're having puberty blockers.
So what age
It
then?
doesn't work like that.
What age?
Let me finish.
Well, you said young person, and we're talking about children. A young person is often a bit of language that people like you use,
I'm going to
so
finish.
that we disguise the fact we're talking about children. So let's have a proper example, shall we? Let's have a 10-year-old.
So in this country, we have a capacity to consent, and so we go through with that young person. Do they have the capacity to give consent if their parents don't agree? And in reality, maybe a 15 or 16-year-old would be able to make a decision on their own, but certainly a 7 or 8-year-old wouldn't be able to make a decision on their own without their parents.
Well, I hope you're good.
We're very good in this country that we don't have an age cut-off. We go case by case, which is how good medicine should work.
So what's...
But it's also illegal to transition children. I didn't get her. I don't get her. She kind of... Her understanding of the world around her is like constantly changing, depending on the context of the conversation she's having.
Test for gender identity. What's a test for a child that you'd say, yes, definitely?
Literally a Skype call. Literally, that's all you do. You call up Gender GP and they just... in most cases, as far as I know, agree, we'll put you on the treatment. Like, hang on. I think Michael answered this question like ages ago. Hang on, let me just see if I can find it. It'll be in our old channel. Oh, and she's done a video coping afterwards. How nice. Yeah, I'll be on this one, because I used a clip of it in my video. Where are you? Where are you? Make sure you like the stream, by the way. Don't forget to subscribe. Is it this one? Let's see.
As you're aware, we don't really like the word diagnosis for transgender care. It's a kind of realisation and acceptance that they are that these people are transgender.
That's insane, by the way.
But it doesn't require any specific examination. It often doesn't require any specific investigation, and therefore this is something that's very easily done remotely, either by email or by telephone or by Skype.
Yeah, you just call them up and say that you're trans, and then that's literally all you have to do.
Let's put that kid on puberty blockers. What's the test?
So, as we mentioned earlier, we talked about appendicitis and 40% of appendix operations.
So, what's the test for appendicitis?
Changing the topic already.
There isn't one.
Right. So, what's the test for gender identity?
Let me finish. You're very rude. Actually.
Well, I don't care about being rude. I don't care about being rude. I would like you to tell me what is the test. So, I don't want a comparison. I want you to tell us what is the test where you would say, yes, that child should go on puberty blockers.
So when you talk about appendicectomy, 40% of appendixes
are they having appendicectomies?
You've got to let her finish. Let her finish.
Well, I just want to be direct.
Just let her finish, okay. And then you can carry on the conversation. But I think it's important that both of you have a chance to finish what you're saying. If you only read one side of the news, you're not...
Interrupts. Ground news, wow.
Media.
So when you take a look at the stats on appendicectomies, 40% of appendices are taken out without, and they're not. There was nothing wrong with them because we don't have a test. So in medicine, sometimes we don't have an X-ray or a brain scan or a blood test that tells us whether somebody has that thing or not. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But what we do have is criteria.
Also, does taking out the appendix negatively affect someone? How do I... fuck. Does it actually really... What does the appendix even do? Great Ormond Street Hospital. Thought to play a part in immunity for the first few years of life, but then does not appear to have a purpose after this. So it's not an amazing analogy. It sounds like whether you take it out or not, it's not really doing anything after a few years anyway. And I'm not seeing much to say that taking one out does a huge amount. It's mostly just the usual risks of sepsis and shit, with any operation.
So, for example, with appendicectomy, if you've got tummy pain there and you've got white cells there, then we kind of think, yeah, you've probably got it. And with gender incongruence, which is I think what you're talking about, there are
which is a nonsense term, by the way.
Criteria. Has that person felt that their gender identity is different from the sex that they were assigned at birth for a long time?
Feelings.
Well, how else do you talk to somebody? It's
just the feelings of a child.
It's what they say to you.
Yeah, they tell you their feelings, and then you say, "Yes, we can make money off of you."
That's how they feel.
The feelings and the word of a child would make you give that child puberty blockers.
Well, I tell you what, I'm a mother of 5 and I listen to my child's feelings all the time. And for any person to say, we must not listen to that child's...
Well, I listened to my child that wanted an Xbox, so therefore it's perfectly sane to listen to a child saying they want to change their gender at the age of 8.
Feelings. It's just bizarre.
But you do understand, though, Helen, that most people watching it would be aghast.
No, not most people.
Yes, they would. 100% yes, they would.
No.
They would be aghast that you would disrupt the brain function, puberty.
How's she going to say no? I don't feel good about this, but does she not presumably get an awful lot of shit from people, on social media and stuff? She must know there's a lot of opposition to transitioning kids. I'm pretty sure it's not polling super well. It's not a very popular position, Transgender Trend said 2/3 want to stop the puberty blocker trial, which I actually am not bothered about. I can see why they're doing it off the back of the CAS review. And trying to explain this to people is like pulling teeth, because people just hear you say, well, I'm not against the puberty blocker trial. They just instantly assume you're a child abuser, which is great, but I don't know. People on both sides listen to fucking idiots. That's just a huge problem, unfortunately. I mean, Transgender Trend is very biased. I mean, we've got The Guardian saying less than half of Britain, more than 3 years old, backs gender-affirming care for trans teenagers. Like, yeah, clearly it's something that many people are against.
The brain function that happens through puberty, all the really important things that happen through puberty, the fertility, the sexual function of a child, rendering someone for the rest of their lives never even having a sexual feeling, never having an orgasm, never ejaculating. You would do that on the feelings of a child. Do you understand how absolutely disgusting most people would think that is?
Well, I don't think that you're right.
I really hate the way she's asking some of this stuff. I don't care if most people find it disgusting. What I care about is, well, what do you say to those people that transition as children, will never have their own kids, and then get to their early adulthood and realize that they were wrong and they would have wanted their own kids, and maybe they aren't so happy that they had their breasts removed or whatever? Like, what do you say to those people? You know, we'll listen to the feelings of a child who's 8 years old and thinks they want to be a boy. What do you say to that same child that comes back 10 years later saying, I think I fucked this up and I made that decision when I was 8? What do you say to those kinds of people? I don't give a fuck. Most people find this disgusting. Who fucking cares? Like, we need to get into like real issues, like real questions, you know?
That most people would. And the thing is, you see, this is why
like, most people that voted in the last US election voted for Trump. I think that's fucking delusional. But most people did. It's not really a hugely meaningful thing. It doesn't mean that they're right. It doesn't mean that, you know, it's not really a reason to not do it. A reason to not do it is that it can cause harm, you know? Anyway, sorry.
Of a child.
This has been really shit so far. I'm very disappointed.
Do you understand how absolutely disgusting most people would think that is?
Well, I don't think that you're right that most people would.
Yeah, I've seen the Diane Ehrensaft thing a few times. It's fucking bizarre.
And the thing is, you see, this is why medics shouldn't get...
Do you understand how absolutely disgusting most people would think that is?
Well, I don't think that you're right that most people would. And the thing is, you see, this is why medics shouldn't get involved in medicine, because what Kelly's saying there is completely wrong. If you actually look at the and ask adults, because we're not asking children about sex, we're asking adults who've been through medical transition, how is your sex life before or after? And by far the majority will say,
did they have puberty blockers?
It's so much better.
Did they have puberty blockers?
They have.
Those
like anecdotal evidence.
Adults that you just talked about, did they have...
No one's ever surveyed me on my sex life, just saying.
Puberty blockers?
Nobody has puberty blockers. We haven't been able to get them in this country.
So you don't know then? So you don't know what happens. So when a child has taken 6 years of puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, so their labia doesn't develop properly, they don't develop sexual feelings, all those things.
They do develop sexual feelings.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
How do you know?
Because they don't.
Is she going to bring up the Marcy Bowers thing?
How do you know, Kelly?
You know they don't.
I know they do because
Oh, fuck me, dude. That literally, why wouldn't you have this example on hand? Marcy Bowers has said, and I've brought this up a million times, I probably brought it up even in my video. Fuck, what was it? Depending on when you issue the puberty blockers to male children, they might not have any sexual function. This is fucking WPATH saying so.
The second is was an observation that I had that every single child who was, or adolescent who was truly blocked at Tanner stage 2 has never experienced orgasm. I mean, it's really about zero. These are these are just assigned male at birth, so trans feminine, and it's because they never in their lives are exposed to testosterone. That doesn't change That doesn't change. So blockers prevent the rise of testosterone, and they don't really go on testosterone at or around surgery or into adulthood. And so we don't know. They're going to have this sensation. There's no question about that. But are they going to be able to achieve sexual satisfaction? It's important in relationships. And I know that from my work with female.
Yeah, you get the point. So there is some foundation to this. To say it always happens that way is not true, but depending on how you use it, you know.
What's the point of puberty? What's the point? What does puberty do? What does a normal puberty do to a body that you're intending to block?
But you see, you don't understand medicine, and this is the difficulty.
Well, that's all right. Look, Harold Shipman was a doctor.
Well, hold on. Well, explain it to us then.
So, what happens is
Sounds like a Maya. Oh, you don't understand this. Well, do you? Do you?
Ovaries produce estrogen. The testicles produce testosterone. Estrogen makes your body.
Again, I'm sorry. This is such a dumb question.
What does puberty do to a body? What's the point? What does puberty do?
Like, what's the point? Obviously, they don't want to develop certain secondary sex characteristics. A male transitioner probably doesn't want their voice to break, otherwise they sound like me, you know what I mean? And grow facial hair. And, you know, continuing development towards being a man. A female probably doesn't want to grow breasts and shit like that. All this kind of shit is fairly obvious. What kind of matters is, well, what other elements of your development that are crucial are you potentially fucking with just to achieve that aim of stopping the secondary sex characteristics? Like, is it affecting someone's like brain? Is it meaning that they're not developing properly in that area? We know the answer to this. Like, we always have to do all like the basic shit. And it's like very easy for her to just sit there and explain this kind of thing, you know?
What does a normal puberty do to a body that you're intending to block?
But
I don't know why this is even a question. Like, this is just so obvious.
You see, you don't understand medicine, and this is the difficulty.
Well, that's all right. Look, Harold Shipman was a doctor.
Well, hold on. Well, explain it to us then.
So, what happens is the ovaries produce.
I guess technically WPATH doesn't set standards of care. They just have published a standard of care that countries can choose to go along with or not. You know what I mean? It's just a bunch of trans people who are mostly old and rich giving their opinion. And it'll be mostly shit they wish they had, even if they're, you know, even if they've got kids and shit. Saying they wish that they transitioned as a kid. Okay, well, they wouldn't exist then, would they?
Produce estrogen. The testicles produce testosterone. Estrogen makes your body develop in that way. Testosterone makes your body develop in that way. If you're a male and your body is developing through estrogen...
Really didn't want to say that.
It's very, very uncomfortable. So what we do is we just switch them.
Bro, if you're a male... No, you mean if you're female to male. If you're a trans man, you're not male.
Developing through estrogen, it's very, very uncomfortable. So what we do is we just switch them. So it's not going through puberty. They're going through the male puberty because their identity is male. So
how does a female go through male puberty? Like, I think it's one of those things. It's again very debatable. The thing is, she's a doctor. You'd think she'd be using quite precise language. And less kind of very subjective language. But like whether or not you go through male or female puberty kind of depends on how you define puberty. It's an incredibly subjective claim. Like, obviously a major function for most people of puberty is becoming fertile. So if that's the main kind of thing, and most males that go through puberty with testosterone become fertile as males, but no females who go through that same puberty with testosterone will become fertile as males. Are they going through male puberty? It's kind of hard to explain what I mean, but it's just such a weird and like subjective way of thinking about it that, you know, you'd think there's like a need to be precise that we just don't get. Instead, if you frame puberty a certain way as just physically some hormones go through your body, or you grow facial hair and your voice drops, and you cut out any importance of like fertility because it just doesn't happen with everyone. Well, I mean, none of those things happen with everyone, you know. It's very strange. It's very strange. I don't like it.
Their body will match being male, and the same for females. So you're not stopping puberty.
And their body won't match being male.
And you talk about labia. I don't know whether labia have much to do with orgasms, but the sexual function in transgender people who have transitioned is much better.
Puberty
because
blocked.
they're
Puberty blocked, Helen. Come on.
You're switching puberty, Kelly. You don't understand what you're talking
No,
about.
what you're telling me.
Again, can you switch puberty? Could I ever have gone through a female puberty just because if I had taken estrogen when I was a teenager and not had testosterone in my body, I would have developed breasts? You know what I mean? Oh, thank you, Alistair. I appreciate that. Yeah, I took it down because I wanted to, Oh, wait, no, that was months ago, wasn't it? Shit. Yeah, I remember now. I was going to do something with it, but then I decided not to.
If my female body takes testosterone, I go through a male puberty.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, very subjective claim.
That develops your testicles and penis.
No, you don't have a
come
testicle
on.
and penis.
Oh my goodness
Kelly,
me!
Last time I kind of
This is so
thought,
dishonest
you don't
of
have
you.
a testicle and penis.
This is. I don't even think you believe what you're saying because you can't be consistent. Right? A boy is born. I'm gonna pretend for a moment that I'm deranged and I believe that there's a gender identity thing. A boy is born. He's got a male gender identity. He goes through male puberty. Tell me what puberty that is and what it does. Tell me about the brain, sexual function and fertility. What is the point of human beings going through puberty? Just tell us that, because you're a medical doctor.
What are you struggling with here? So you've got a
She's asking you a question. Just fucking answer it.
male
No, don't do
person.
that. Just answer the question.
Hold on, Kelly.
Helen.
Where are you going with this? I don't understand the point of this question.
Why is Constantine doing this? She's trying to establish, can you go through... Like, Kelly's actually doing something fucking decent here for once. And fucking Constantine is, like, getting on her case. Shut the fuck up. Oh my god, this is so shit. She's trying to establish, well, a major part of puberty for most people is fertility. And fertility is incredibly important because if none of us were able to have kids, we wouldn't fucking exist. We would have stopped existing a super long time ago. Like, why? just get her to answer the question. Jesus Christ. It's like he thinks because he has to be balanced. So he has to, like, just push back here and there.
Well, because if you block puberty, the point of puberty blockers is to block puberty. I think we have to we have to let Helen explain, so then she can justify why puberty blocking is ever okay.
Okay, I got it.
Okay,
I understand. Oh.
So I'm explaining to Constantine. So what we have to do is we have to get her to explain what is the function of puberty for normal people, and then she can explain why she's happy to totally disrupt that function and claim that that person can still develop opposite sex puberty or whatever nonsense.
Well, her claim is they don't not have puberty, they have puberty of the opposite sex. That's what she's saying.
Yeah, but that's not possible.
Okay.
Yeah, she's trying to establish whether you can or not. And it'll come down to, well, it depends how you define it.
Is it possible?
Of course it is. I mean, you have a look at every trans man out there who's been on testosterone for a couple of years, and they are indistinguishable from you.
They ejaculate, do they?
It's just not fucking true. How are you going to say that? I'm fucking so sorry. How are you going to say that?
For a couple of years, and they are indistinguishable from you.
So what? You get a trans man and Constantine naked. And the trans man's now got a full fucking penis with ball bag. The wider hips and shit have just completely shrunk in. It's just so obviously not true.
They ejaculate, do they?
Well, indistinguishable. So if we
even he has noticed that she's taken this way too fucking far.
If you take us both naked and stand us next to each other, we'd be indistinguishable.
Well, do you know what? Genitals come in all different shapes and sizes.
What are you saying? Genitals come in all... Oh my god, man. This is so fucking annoying.
No, they don't.
Well, yes, they do.
No.
He looks like a trans man. He kind of does. I would be surprised if he's more than about, like, 5'5". He looks short, you know.
No, they don't. Penises are all pretty consistently a certain shape.
This is like verging on delusional.
Indistinguishable. So if you take us both naked and stand us next to each other, we'd be indistinguishable.
Well, do you know what? Genitals come in all different shapes and
How are
sizes.
you going to say that when you're talking about a female person who still has a vagina? They've just taken tea for a couple of years. How are you going to say that?
No, they don't.
Well, yes, they do.
No, they don't. Penises are all pretty consistently a certain shape and a certain way, and vaginas are pretty consistently a certain shape and a certain way. Right. So you just said...
Yeah, it's pretty rare. In fact, I would say it's extremely rare that you get a penis or a vagina that resembles the other. I'm sorry, this is like delusional. I'm guessing this is very recent. Yeah, this is August 6th.
would be indistinguishable, which I find to be stretching credulity given that I've looked into
But you're focusing on genitals. I'm not focusing on genitals.
Genitals.
Well, no, they said naked. He said, well, she was the one that said that they'd be indistinguishable. Well, that would mean that their fucking crotch area would look the same, no? So he's going to focus on the area where clearly they do not look like each other.
Pretty important.
And then as soon as someone does that, because that's the reasonable thing to do, it's like, oh, well, you're focusing on genital. Oh, well, you people are so like perverted. You just want to talk about genitals the whole time. How do people fall for this, man? It's embarrassing.
Important part of what a human being is.
But you're boiling down my description.
Who's winning? Everyone is losing. Everyone in the world is losing. There are no winners, and there won't be. I mean, listen, maybe someone will pull it together. There's been the odd okay moment.
Of swapping puberty and pubertal development.
I'm challenging a word that you used, which is we would be in a trans woman. We've had...
Yeah, but all of a sudden you took your clothes off.
Trans man.
I wasn't taking your clothes off. I was saying a trans...
How are we going to do this? Well, you said if you take your clothes off. Yeah, because you said they'd be the same.
That's really important part
That's
of
a pretty important part for you. Hold on. So we had, for example,
next it's going to be, oh, well, you leave your clothes on and they're different clothes, therefore you're not indistinguishable. Like, it's just so obvious.
A load of trans people as guests on our show.
Good.
Buck Angel, for example. Buck Angel is a trans man who has a vagina.
Uh-huh.
Buck Angel, if you look...
probably doesn't look anything like a fucking penis.
At him with clothes, probably looks harder and more well-built than I do. But we're not indistinguishable. Buck Angel is a trans man with a vagina who is himself would say that he's not male.
I know, but Buck Angel doesn't speak for all trans people.
Can I just
nor do you.
really pin Helen down to what is the point of puberty? I'd just like you to tell us what the point is.
I think she answered...
He's actually onto something good here. They're really not helping each other. You'd think they'd have... Well, I suppose they're not gonna coordinate, are they? Because he's meant to be impartial.
A question, actually, you just don't like the answer, but answer that we're not indistinguishable remotely.
What happened?
I know, but Buck Angel doesn't speak for all trans people.
Can I just really pin Helen down to what is the point of puberty? I'd just like you to tell us what the point is.
I think she answered your question, actually. You just don't like the answer, but answer the... We're not
the problem is Kelly wanted to get into the main reason why puberty exists. So we didn't really get much of a conversation on that. I don't know. We'll see if it comes back, I guess. Sexual function. Yeah, I think it'll come back to it.
Distinguishable remotely.
What puberty does is develops your secondary sex characteristics.
Yes.
Okay, so they're called...
It also affects your primary sex characteristics.
Secondary sex. Your primary sex characteristics are your genitals, your ovaries, and your testicles.
Which become functional at some point during puberty.
Your secondary sex characteristics are what puberty develops. That they don't start...
So she's framing it as if it has no effect on your genitals whatsoever, and therefore we can say puberty is just the development of secondary sex characteristics. That's not true.
Till puberty starts 9, 10 or 11.
Right.
And it's your secondary sex characteristics, the ones on the outside, the ones visible to the world, that when there's a mismatch causes so much distress in transgender people. So they don't focus on their genitals. It's people like here that are focusing on their genitals. But actually, if we just put the... So
you're saying having a beard is more important to maleness than having a penis?
But why don't we speak to the male that's wanting it? You may feel that a penis is more important to you than a beard, but let's ask.
As a male who is also trans, having a penis is far more indicative of you being a male than having a beard. You get women that have beards. You get women with like PCOS and shit. You get women with conditions that mean that they have high testosterone. Go up to a woman. This is what Helen Webberley should do. Go up to a woman who has facial hair and be like, hey, that's a male characteristic you got there. You're like part male now, aren't you? You're like a bit of a bloke, aren't you? See how she feels about that. Maybe find a whole bunch of them and see how many of them want to fucking smack you.
Okay, let's ask 99% of male. What would you, if you had to lose your facial hair or lose your penis? I know what men would say.
But some men are born without a penis. Some men are born with a vagina, like Buck Angel is.
That's retarded.
Okay. I mean, I'm just challenging this idea that we're indistinguishable when people have genitals of the opposite sex.
Trans women are women, trans men are men, just allows people to talk this way. And it clearly makes no sense, but that's the logic they're operating on. Trans men aren't men, they're trans men. That's why they're trans men.
I'm just explaining to you that it's way more than genitals.
Yes, but those things are...
But you're also wrong, because if you took a trans man and put him next to Konstantin Kissin, they're not indistinguishable because one's got a penis and one doesn't. I don't think she knows what the word indistinguishable means. I wonder if she realized that she went too far with this, but now she has to double down.
Secondary versus primary for a reason. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit confused. But so puberty, you stop it and
you switch it.
You switch it. Okay, yeah. That's your counter argument to what you were saying. You can switch puberty.
That can't, look. You go through puberty at a set age with all your peers. Part of going through puberty, it has an impact on your relationship. So it pushes you a little bit away from your parents, pushes you towards your peers, cognitive function. So like I said...
This is something we do need to get more into.
Earlier, there's brain pruning, which means you're just much more efficient. We've all met teenagers. We know that hormones has quite a dramatic impact on them. What we do in this country is we'll block the puberty. So these kids, well, we don't anymore, thankfully, because it was so barbaric. So those kids from 11 to 16, when all their friends are going through all that stuff, they're not doing that. So even on an emotional and relational level, it's grotesque and abusive. But the physical stuff, I don't believe for a second, and I don't think you believe it either, because I think actually you and most people who listen to you know that you're being very, very dishonest. You can't block puberty and also develop your sexual function and fertility. You can't do both of those things at the same time. And I'm just asking you, do you think at all that it is a barbaric thing to do to take a healthy body that has sexual function, and sex is a really important part of life for most of us with a significant other. Sex is a really wonderful thing. It's very intimate. It's a bonding thing that we do. Most adults...
I have a feeling if it's more sexual function, she's just got the whole, oh, well, trans people tell me their sex life is good. Maybe it is. I don't know. I have no idea. The kind of fertility thing, they do need to get more into, well, fertility is a very important part of puberty. It has to be for us to exist, you know?
Thoroughly enjoy it. Why would you want to take that away from somebody forever so that they don't have an orgasm? Or you...
Because they asked for it and she wants money.
You take a autistic...
Again, it seemed like we were going in a good direction, but this is a dumb question, I'm sorry.
Girl on the pathway to cross-sex hormones, then she has vaginal atrophy, then she might have a fake penis that never works, she never gets an erection. A penis has 20,000 sensitivity receptors in the glands. She'll never have that. She'll never have a fulfilling sex life. She'll never do that pair bonding. What on earth gives you the right to ever even think that you can take that away from someone?
Because they asked her to.
Well, you're completely wrong in all of your medical evaluation there, and that's why non-medics shouldn't get involved in medicine.
Harold Shipman was a doctor, although I will be fair, he didn't touch kids.
So one example that we're going to use, we've got Buck Angel as our trans man example, and we've got Harold Shipman as our doctor example.
It's not an example, it's... You can claim to be a medic and therefore you're the authority. Some very dodgy people become doctors. Like, you can use a further example of, well, at one point lobotomies were considered healthcare. They were part of the healthcare system in the USA. That was a thing that genuine doctors with fucking degrees and shit and experience said, yeah, that's a good thing and people should do it, you know?
I think think we just need to broaden our examples here of transgender people,
I don't think we need to broaden at all. I think all she does is broaden.
Transgender men and doctors into something a little bit more kind of like ordinary.
So puberty blocking doesn't change sexual functional fertility. Are you going to stake a claim on that?
I told you earlier that if you speak to adults, because children don't have sex.
Just answer yes or no.
I'm trying to answer your question, but I don't think your brain is really like.
Just answer yes or no. Does puberty blocking change?
Yeah, I would have been losing my shit by now. I cannot stand people that talk to other people this way. Like, constantly getting these fucking digs in.
Change sexual functional fertility, yes or no?
Okay, now let her answer.
Okay, gender affirming care is what we're talking about. The whole parcel, not just puberty blocking in a...
Now let her answer. Doesn't answer. I hope he fucking makes her.
Whatever age you're thinking of. We're talking about gender affirming care, which is switching somebody's hormones, turning off their hormone and giving them the opposite hormone. And if you speak to people, adults, who are having intimate, consensual, love.
I don't know how she's still allowed to identify herself as a doctor. Earlier she said she isn't anymore. Earlier she said she was just a advocate and an educator now, which I don't feel like she should be calling herself that either. Because as my video shows, which everyone should watch, I have a video about Helen Webberley, it's very good. She tells an awful lot of lies. She says an awful lot of things that just are demonstrably untrue.
Sex. Transgender people who have gone through a gender affirming care, the research shows they have much better sex, much better. Because they're...
What research? What are we talking about? I mean... I don't know, man. Quite a few trans women only want to take it so far with like hormones and surgery and stuff because they don't want to lose their libido. If you're a trans woman and you don't really care about your libido, that's not really important to you, then you're probably going to be happier. But that really depends.
Body.
Like when you're going to broaden, she's doing something really kind of dodgy actually here. She wants to broaden it out to gender affirming care as a whole parcel. But it varies from person to person. In fact, most trans women haven't had the same kind of gender affirming care that I have because I had bottom surgery and plenty of trans women don't. Which I'm not saying is a bad thing, you know, it's you're getting a part taken off of you, it's kind of scary and shit. I understand why people wouldn't want to for all kinds of reasons. But it means that it's a different thing for every trans person. So how do you make the conversation about the entire thing broadly and then talk about it as if it's the same for everyone when she knows it's not the same for everyone? Gender affirming care is something that differs depending on like what your goals are and shit. I hope that made sense. Like it's very dodgy. You can't really broaden it out so much when it's something that's kind of like individualized.
Than transgender people who haven't, or before they went through gender affirming care. So the control is either themselves or people who haven't gone through gender affirming care. Because once their body matches their gender identity, then under the covers,
pseudoscience
in the bedroom is way...
Why has no one asked her to define and justify her model of gender identity? Why is no one asking this?
Better. And I don't know how many transgender adults you've spoken to and asked them about their sex life, but I've spoken to a lot. And that's, again, why people like you shouldn't be having...
Also bear in mind, she's probably more likely to hear the positives than the negatives. Someone's unhappy, they might not want to say something. They might think, well, I'm glad in other ways, so I'll just, yeah, it's fine and stuff.
These big microphone appearances.
Like, we shouldn't really be talking. Like, sexual function... I think sexual function matters in terms of some trans people start when they're kids and they make decisions about things they don't understand yet. And they might deprive themselves of something that they'll want later in life that they were never going to understand as a kid. And they made that decision as a kid. And you've subjected someone to a harm to allow them to do that. You know what I mean? That I think is the extent of the sexual function conversation. It's not going to be a super strong position to argue from.
Females.
We're back to females again. No, people like you, male or female or non-binary, doesn't matter. But that you should not be getting involved in the decisions that patients make with their doctors on an informed consent basis.
So when that 11-year-old comes into your consultation and they're convinced, and you see a beautiful trans boy and they say, I want this done, how do you explain that they're never going to have an orgasm?
Of course they have orgasms.
Yeah, this is not necessarily true.
So their puberty,
Like, at least say it as in, like, maybe there's a risk that your sexual function might be diminished or something.
puberty blocking, so you're going to...
Gender affirming care.
Taking
Bro, come on, just...
puberty blockers then, the drug that
You can't always make it about the whole thing.
blocks the hormone that encourages estrogen production. If you block that for an 11 to 16-year-old who then goes on to cross-sex hormones, it doesn't impact their sexual function at all. Is that what you're saying?
It improves their sexual function.
And how does it...
Well, it probably can. I don't know if it... I don't know. This is so stupid. I'm just gonna... I think I'm just gonna play this and let it fucking finish.
do that?
So puberty blockers switch off your ovaries or your testicles. Okay, let me get this straight with you. Giving a puberty blocker switches off ovaries and testicles, and you replace the hormone that you've switched off with the opposite hormone, so that their body's secondary sex characteristics develop in line with their gender identity.
But they don't have testicles, Helen. How does testosterone give puberty to someone without testicles and a penis?
Well, this again is why you don't understand medicine.
Well, just explain it then.
Okay, I'll explain it to you. So testicles produce testosterone, okay? But transgender women have testicles and they don't want that testosterone. Transgender men don't have testicles, so we need to give them testosterone as a medicine. It's exactly the same testosterone, whether you have it from your testicles or whether you have it from a medicine, it's exactly the same testosterone. And if you haven't got testicles, you can't produce your own.
So it doesn't have quite the same effect. It doesn't do all the same stuff that it would usually do in a male because they don't have testicles. So is it puberty or not? Again, it's going to end up being a what's the word? Subjective thing.
You give it to them instead. And that
like a lot of shit, honestly, a lot of shit would be fucking solved if we all just accepted that this was an incredibly subjective thing. That some people believe in and some people don't. You know what I mean?
That gives them their...
That gives them erections, does it?
They don't have a penis. Unless they make
so
one.
the sexual function, I just really would like to be granular on this.
Yeah.
Because I think you're being dishonest.
And so you keep saying, and I do find that rather offensive, actually, because I haven't called you a dishonest person.
She's been like an asshole in like other ways. I hate people like this. It's like this thing with like some progressive types where like they'll make all kinds of like personal attacks against you, and that's acceptable. So then you just respond, okay, well, I think you're a nonce, and suddenly you're the bad person. It's like you've been like making fucking comments about what kind of person I am from the off, trying to make out that I think a certain way because I'm hateful or because I'm like bigoted or something. Like that's a personal attack too. You know what I mean?
That's fine. You can call me dishonest, and it wouldn't bother me at all. When a child has their puberty blocked, and then you give them to when a girl.
There being any updates on the decision regarding puberty blockers trial? It's still going ahead. I mean, to be honest, I'm not really against it because I see Dr. Hilary Cass's point in that it is kind of for the science. It is kind of, well, we have a thing that there's demand for, but the evidence for it is not very good. Well, the obvious conclusion is, well, let's get the evidence. Let's see if there's actually, you know, if we do a better trial than the kind of shit that has been done previously. Let's see if it actually does have any benefit or not. Or if it's just a bunch of people saying they're happier and there's not much we can do with that. And the thing is, the people that are against it, if it comes out not to really show much benefit, which would follow a trend because that Joanna Alton Kennedy person had a study that found little benefit, then that will, I think, make it much easier to continue banning like trans, like child healthcare. Like let's say the fucking Green Party gets in like a decade or something, and we don't bother with any trials. We just say no, we just don't think we should do this. They'll just default back to the WPATH evidence and say, well, no, they're saying all this, and so it must be good. Well, if we have pieces of evidence that are stronger and say otherwise, then we're kind of better prepared for the future. Like, I fucking hope I can convince like a small handful of like more turfy types on this. Because it's not just oh, we wanna experiment on kids actually. There's actually some kind of like strategic thinking to it. You know what I mean? I know. I hope that made sense.
What I would call a girl, what you would call a trans boy, when they get their puberty blocked and you give them cross-sex hormones, they're perfectly fine. They have a super happy sex life. Everything develops normally, even though they don't have the hormones that match their anatomy.
So a trans guy who hasn't had any surgery will have a clitoris and a vagina. They will have labia, and they will have testosterone. There's no reason at all why that clitoris, vagina, labia cannot be sexually satisfying.
And what about testosterone pushing young women into the menopause?
Yeah, we're still on the wrong track. Like, I don't know. Kelly J. Keane is like kind of... She seems like she's approaching a decent point, and then it goes off into something else. Where it's like, well, can you be sexually satisfied if you're a woman that takes tea? Well, yeah, quite possibly. That's not really the issue, is it? The issue is we're saying they go through male puberty. Like, sexual satisfaction is not a measure of puberty, right? Like, that's like kind of neither here nor there.
Then.
No, actually,
and what about testosterone pushing young women into the menopause then?
No, the menopause means no hormone.
Does that happen? I think they get certain effects. I don't think it's the same. Like, I think it fucks with a lot of like young trans men's like bone density. I don't know where I'd find this. Testosterone causes genital changes that are similar to menopause. So to say it's actually menopause, like this is like, if you're not using like super precise language, she will find any way of like weaseling out of actually providing a real answer to the question. But there's no onus on her to use like, you know, precise language. I think you go through some things that are similar, but menopause is more specific to like, you know, when you're female and older and your fertility dries up and that.
Hormones.
Right. So and what happens? What happens when? Why don't doctors give more women hysterectomies? Why don't they? I'll tell you, because you probably do know. It's because it increases the risk of Alzheimer's.
What does, sorry?
Going through early menopause. So they try to avoid it, but you're happy to give girls testosterone knowing.
Again, I don't know if that means that because trans men get some similar symptoms, that means that they have an increased risk of Alzheimer's. I don't know about that.
That they will go through no hormones, early menopause.
No,
and they end up with vaginal atrophy. And actually, anecdotally, many of those girls report problems with their heart with the poisonous testosterone in those levels, because it's not normal, is it, for a woman? If I had high testosterone, my doctor would be concerned.
So what you need to do is give the right amount of hormones so that they have...
Speaking of high testosterone, there's a very dodgy person to be talking to, because what was it? There was that big court case that she fucking lied about on GB News, like pretended it had nothing to do with her, or it was in Australia or something. It wasn't in Australia, it was in the UK. Like they were issuing, like what was it, a 15-year-old girl or something with a dose of testosterone you'd normally give to a man that had been tapering up to that point for like years and years. You had Michael Webberley telling men in a TRT, like cis men in a TRT, testosterone replacement therapy clinic setting, that the upper limit is like 14 nanomoles when it's supposed to be like 30 or something. Telling them that if you've got small junk, that increases your risk of like premature death and shit like that. There's a long history of these people doing insane weird shit when it comes to giving people testosterone. Very, very, very untrustworthy.
Of what we call physiological levels of testosterone. So a trans guy, you're giving...
I hope she gives like the limits and stuff. I would like to hear this.
Exactly the same amount of testosterone that their testicles would have produced if they had them.
How do you know? Like, I'm sorry. How could you possibly know how much testosterone a person would have produced if they had testicles? And even if you do know that, how do you know that's going to be healthy for them when they're female, seeing as how they've developed in a different way? Where now that probably isn't, you know, safe for them.
called physiological levels of testosterone. So a trans guy, you're giving exactly the same amount of testosterone that their testicles would have produced if they had
I think this seems like bullshit to me. I'm sorry.
them. You mentioned HRT in women, and actually hormones are very, very important for everybody. I expect, being the age you are, that your ovaries don't work anymore.
Is Cartoon Mary ever gonna make a comeback? One sec. If I can find it. I don't really use it much anymore. A lot of those like cartoon things people use are a bit kind of cliche. Here you go.
And I don't know whether you take HRT or not.
I don't.
I
No.
don't.
I'm au naturel.
Oh dear, I'll meet you in 10 years' time. It's
What do you mean by that? What's wrong with not having hormones and not
hormones are
producing
really
hormones?
important.
But what's wrong with not having them, Helen?
Wait, it is not good for you to be producing no hormone. I feel like we're in a very weak spot here, unfortunately.
Tell you or not, hormones are really important, whether it's testosterone hormone or estrogen hormone. What we do know is if you spend too much of your life without it, your bones are at risk, your brain is at risk of Alzheimer's, and your vagina will atrophy.
So if you like stop them or something, like puberty block
exactly,
them,
and don't give them the
terrible.
opposite. Exactly. So hormones are really important.
So doing that to an 11-year-old sounds
really
horrendous.
Wait, come on.
And really important for.
I did not have this debate so you could argue about each other's ovaries, with all respect to your ovaries. The Trigonometry merch store is built on Shopify. /trigger. Look, I think ultimately what this it revolves around at one level is the conversation about what gender dysphoria actually is, right? And I think you probably have a very different perspective of it.
Gender dysphoria is just unhappiness that you're blaming on your gender, whether rightly or wrongly.
Helen, and your view is a mental illness, mental disorder? How would you describe it?
I don't really think it actually exists. I think it's a response to trauma, and I think we've given it a label.
This is a lame answer.
And I think that's very dangerous, giving it a label, because then people can identify with that label. And certainly when you're talking about traumatized individuals.
I like half agree, but like pinning it on trauma is like, I don't know, man. There's a lot of different reasons as to why people seem to come to the conclusion they experience gender dysphoria.
When you're talking about people with autism, and what we also know, just as an aside for your audience, more than anybody at the table, women with autism really struggle with things like the combined pill. So estrogen is really difficult. I don't know whether they haven't really done the research, why that is. But what we do know is women with autism really struggle with the menopause. So imagine a girl with autism going through puberty. I'm sure it's really traumatizing, and I can speak from very close experience that it's much more traumatizing for those girls than for others. So if we label that something and say, oh yes, you have got something, we can find a treatment.
The thing is, she's kind of got a point here, because you have to imagine there's going to be girls that start going through puberty, really don't like it, and that can, if you believe in like rapid onset gender dysphoria or whatever, then that's probably a place that can come from. But then that kind of disproves the idea, oh, well, it's just a trauma response. Oh, well, they just must have trauma or something,
Treatment. And those traumatized children then see this as I can escape this. I can escape the awkwardness of breast growing. I can escape all this awkwardness. I think it's really dangerous to go down that route, because there aren't loads of children from the 60s, 70s and 80s who were saying that I'm this thing, but I couldn't do it. There's retrospectively some sort of...
I'll be like, I didn't have the language for it back then. Like, okay, man. That's what everyone says.
Pornified AGP men that said, oh, I've always felt like this. Well, I don't believe them. I think that's a lie.
Yeah, when people say they've always felt like this, like I used to do the same thing. It's not really quite that way. I did wish that I was a girl instead of a boy. It was kind of, I get shamed for being like kind of girly an awful lot. And I'm like, well, if I was a girl, it'd be acceptable for me to do what I want to do and stuff. But that's a very different thing. That's all about like societal gender and stuff. It's not me knowing that I was trans from a young age. No one knows that they're trans from a young age. I don't think Like, to me, being trans is something that you are because you are living as the other sex. And all this gender identity stuff, I mean, it's you know, if you just have a different gender identity, but you don't actually do anything with it, are you trans? Like, to me, you're not, you know? Like, if you can just... If Konstantin Kissin decided he was a trans woman because of his gender identity being female, and that's the extent of it, he never does anything about it, never changes anything, doesn't change his name and all that shit, I can't call that person trans. You know, there's got to be a bit more to it than that.
But even if I'm completely wrong, I don't think you can ever say with 100% certainty that an...
Well, AGP is one of the reasons why someone might transition. And I kind of, to a certain extent, I recognize it in myself. Like, it's hard to explain. And to be honest, I don't know how much I'd want to explain. But it's more something that can cause one to transition, you know what I mean? A person can be AGP and then transition, and to me they're trans, you know? A person can not have gender dysphoria and transition, and I still think that person's trans. So one kind of leads to the other, potentially.
11-year-old, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old telling you that they are definitely born in the wrong body and they're not what they...
I think the way I see AGP, I guess, like, you get plenty of them that just kind of dress up. They're just like crossies. They just dress up and, you know, that's what they want to do. And I think for some of them, it doesn't go far enough, or it doesn't, I guess, like, scratch the itch in the right way. And you think that transitioning might help with that. And maybe it will for some people. I guess it did for me to a certain extent. But then the thing about stuff like AGP is it's always going to diminish once you start on hormones, because any, like, sexually driven stuff is just going to go out the window. You're going to lose your libido and stuff. You're just not going to care about that kind of stuff as much.
They are. I don't think you can ever be certain enough to make any medical interventions whatsoever with that child. And like I said, anyone that does do that, I think, is profoundly abusive. And there's a
Hold on, though. I mean, Helen made what I think is a fair point, which is that when it comes to lots of medical interventions, whenever I've had to deal with health issues of people in my family, there's never 100% certainty. It's always a risk calculation. You're going, well, 90% it's, you know, you've got high cholesterol and this and that, therefore we'll give you this and see what happens.
There's not many that make you a medical patient for life, though.
That's a very good point. I totally agree with that, because, I mean, one of the things with this is it's irreversible, right? But then other medical interventions are also potentially irreversible as well,
on children,
right?
where they haven't got something else, like, you know, with cancer, then some of those treatments can render a child infertile, but it's that or they are going to die. I think that's a fair thing to do. And I think as a parent, you would have to weigh that up.
Who is it? Someone brought up cancer to me recently. Was it Amaya? I can't remember. Yeah, it was Amaya. It was something about, like, oh, well, you transition a child, you're just treating a medical issue, you know? It's the same as if they have cancer. Well, it's not the same, is it? It's not the same. You don't die of gender dysphoria. You do die of cancer.
Up, and you would have to be ready to have those conversations with that child. But also, what we're missing from this is, how can you really explain something so catastrophic to an 11-year-old or 12-year-old? How can they possibly be part of the conversation about, you're going to eradicate your sexual function? You're not going to have...
We're still doing, bro. Please stop.
Well, Helen disputes that, right?
Yeah.
We already did the sexual function. Why is she bringing this up again?
We'll fact check it and put
do the fertility thing. The fertility thing is much better than the sexual function thing.
The stuff up on the screen. But what I'm trying to get with you is, you say you don't think gender dysphoria exists, but then you say it's a trauma response. Well, that means it exists. It's a question of how do you describe it.
Ooh, owned.
Right?
Yeah.
Because let's say...
saying gender dysphoria doesn't exist is really dumb. Gender dysphoria exists because it's unhappiness with your sex. You might be one sex and be unhappy because you're that sex. That's a thing that can exist. So it's fairly easy to say, yes, it's a thing that exists. It's like how seriously you take it and what you do with it and what's going to help any one person with gender dysphoria. Because the other thing is, some people with gender dysphoria, they can transition, but it's probably not actually going to help very much, because some people are just never going to resemble the other sex, you know?
you were scared by a dog when you were 3, you might.
And like, if people say, like, it's fair enough to say it can alleviate gender dysphoria, but I think it rarely cures it. I would be amazed if that many trans people don't still experience it, you know, throughout their life.
Have a phobia of dogs. We'd recognize that as a thing that exists. You might call it mental health, a mental illness, or it might be a phobia, but it's a thing that exists that you can seek therapy for.
Yes.
Right? So what is gender dysphoria in your opinion?
Well, I guess it's somebody thinking
Stress sigh.
that they would be happier in a different body or with a different social role. So
Yeah, potentially.
if we have to say what it is.
Like, let's just make it simpler though. You're one sex and you don't like being that sex. Like, let's just keep it simple.
But I do think it's a dangerous label that has led to all of this. And look, there's a young man who I
don't know, I'm still trying to get my head around my own take, I guess, on this. But like, it has been like weirdly kind of mystified in a way that isn't really necessary. You get all these trans med types who are like, oh, well, you know, it's a necessary part of being trans. Like, you have to have gender dysphoria. As if it's some like magical thing that is a quality that some people have. Well, no, you're unhappy because you're one sex. It's not that deep, you know. I don't know. I need to work out that one, to be honest.
For all intents and purposes, he's about 23. I won't name him because I don't think it's fair, but he would call himself a trans woman. And he's, in my mind, he's clearly just quite an effeminate gay man. And if he hadn't had the body alterations, maybe by 23 he would have found a boyfriend and he wouldn't be crying on the internet having been called a man in public, and this sort of weird expectation. And when he looks in the mirror, he's never woman enough. And I just can't imagine.
Yeah, you could argue some of these people are not being helped by transitioning.
Being part of something
The thing is, listen. As many trans people as possible need to try and get over the misgendering thing. I'm sorry. It's just going to happen. You're never going to be able to force society to bend to your will. You either resemble a woman or get used to the fact that sometimes people are going to call you a he and a man, which is kind of the route I ended up taking. Like, I'm only ever going to resemble a woman so much. So the only way to kind of keep sane really is, well, I'm a male person. I'm a man, you know, whatever. There are going to be people that are just going to see me and call me a he. And that's what they're going to think. And that's reasonable, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be offensive. It's a way that I'm filtering it or whatever. It doesn't have to be offensive. It can just be, well, that's just what some people are seeing. Like, people need to get their head around this shit. Like, if you're stressing constantly about being called he, well, there's a reason you're getting called he all the time. It's because that's what people are seeing. There's no point in taking offense to it. You just got to find a way of fucking dealing with it.
That whether it's totally unnecessary to save anybody's life to give them these drugs as kids, and yet we do it, and people like Helen are happy to be part of that whole thing. And
oh, Nina Sophia, have you seen this before? I mean, it's not surprising to me. That sounds like the kind of thing she does.
It's just grotesque. It's barbarism.
Helen, what do you say to this point? I mean, the Cash report, the Cash review found that there is a significant correlation between other, what you might call comorbidities, autism, and other things that young people and children who have gender dysphoria, if we accept that term, experience. We've had, you're going to say these are the wrong trans people again, but we've had a number of trans people on our show who have themselves said that having gender dysphoria is a mental illness. Do you believe it's a mental illness?
Is it a mental illness? I think it can be. Like, to me, it means what it means. It means unhappiness with your sex. I think it's a mental illness if it gets, like, pathological, if it starts affecting your life, you know. Your day-to-day life is kind of hindered in some way because this is shit that you can't get out of your head and stuff. Like, it's the same as, like, lots of things could be a mental illness depending how far you take it, you know. Someone who washes their hands twice as opposed to once probably doesn't have, like, full-on OCD. They just kind of have a tendency towards that, you know. like mental illnesses, I think aren't like the kind of conditions. They're not like a 1 or 0 kind of thing. Like people can experience a little bit of something, and that thing can be regarded as a mental illness if it's severe enough. But in some people, it kind of isn't. You know.
Okay, I just want to retract slightly to the trans woman that has just been publicly misgendered on this show.
Okay, this is fucking virtue signaling. This is pathetic. You are infantilizing trans people. Please stop, transphobe. Thank you.
So I really apologise for that behaviour.
He doesn't know who it is.
Kelly sits and says, "Oh, I think," and she openly said, "I don't have the research to back it up." And she says, "I have someone close
I
to
don't
me
remember her saying that.
She did.
No, I didn't. I said about autism. I said about autism.
Please, I don't really want her to interrupt
Hang on,
me
you
again.
just...
Okay, but I interrupted you because you're saying something that she didn't say, I think.
Okay,
Well, I mean, we'll check the video and people can...
Please do. But
Okay.
she was saying, I don't have the research to back what she was saying up.
Okay.
And she says, I think, I've got someone close to me. And it's like this one box, one person with all these views on gender, people with gender dysphoria and gender incongruent, gender diverse people.
All right, listen.
And medicine, we take a much wider view.
I didn't get Kelly here against your consent. You knew you were debating her, right? So she's going to express her opinion. That's what she's here to do.
If you let me finish, my point.
Well, I asked you a question about something else.
May I finish my point?
No, actually no, because I don't want this to be the sidetrack that we go on.
Hey, gruesome balls. Maybe he wouldn't resemble the trans man if they took their clothes off.
I'd like you to answer my question. My question to you was about something
But then
else.
I'm at risk of me not being able to finish my point.
No, you're not at risk.
Puberty cures dysphoria? I mean, I guess it can. Depends. But then some people's dysphoria isn't such that transitioning is the right call for them. I think it's one of those things that's different for everyone, I would say. I think when I talk to my co-workers, not caring about pronouns, it could be they, like me, come from a rough area. Could location be a factor? Maybe. I think if you're from a rough area, or you're from like a working class upbringing, you probably have more important things to care about than things like pronouns. I mean, trans is kind of... Yeah, a lot of like middle class trans people, I guess, you know. And like if they become poor, it's usually a bit later in life. But yeah, I don't know. It's just something that people from some areas aren't just going to be exposed to as much. And they're not going to be spending as much time thinking about that kind of shit because they're, you know, busy making ends meet or whatever shit, you know.
I'm asking you not to finish this point. I'm asking you to address my question, which is different. My question is, do you believe that gender dysphoria is a mental illness, as many people who are transgender themselves say it is? And do you consider in your answer to that the fact that the Cass Review and others have found a strong correlation between autism, being gay, and other things that make you somewhat different, to where, you know, the argument is, well, a person going through adolescence and puberty who is different in some way sees this gender dysphoria label as a catch-all for all these different sort of feelings that they experience that make them uncomfortable?
Okay, so back in the day, being gay was listed as a mental illness. And then following that, being transgender was listed as a mental illness. But more recently, the World Health Organization has declassified it. So the World Health Organization said, we're sorry that we listed it as a mental illness. It's not a mental illness. So
that doesn't actually mean it is or isn't one.
Not my view, not Kelly's view. It is.
Bro, she was asked her opinion. It's like, all other people think that. What do you think, though? What do you think? Oh, I hate her.
World Health Organization.
There's always some way of like changing the question or like deferring the response to someone else, so she doesn't have to.
Say that gender dysphoria is not a mental illness. So that's that point.
Like, I don't give a fuck what other people are saying. Like, we're in this kind of woke world where we don't want to stigmatize anything, we don't want to pathologize anything. Well, the truth is, it can be. It depends, right?
And actually, I don't know who you've had on your show saying that they have a mental illness. I'm sorry if they do have a mental illness, but if you speak to many, many, many transgender people, they will say, this is not a mental illness.
Bro, how are you? I'm sorry, man. Yeah, you go up to someone that has a mental condition. Do you think you're mentally ill? Like, does that matter? Does that account for anything? What if they've got schizophrenia or something? What if they have something that makes them like delusional?
This is just me. This is just who I am. In terms of the CAS review and the things that people often list, for example, autism or trauma or porn that Kelly mentioned earlier, there are people who are autistic who are also transgender.
Yeah, it's more likely. And it makes a lot of sense that it's more likely. Because if you're autistic, like unwritten rules and shit can often be like annoying. Like if you're told you're a boy and you want to wear like a dress or some shit, and to you it's just an item of clothing, you think, oh, I'd like how I look in that or whatever. And you're told, no, you can't wear that, that's for girls. And you're not really given any kind of satisfactory like response as to why it's not okay for you to wear what just looks like a bit of cloth stuck together or whatever. That kind of thing can be like really annoying to like autistic people. I'm sure some like non-autistic people too.
There are people who are gay who are also transgender. There are people who've been through trauma who are also transgender. But that does not mean that every transgender person, we must look for the reason, because by far
this really isn't what we're trying to say, but okay.
The majority of people are just transgender because they are.
Well, hold on, you're
that's nonsense. You're transgender because you are. I guess you're transgender because you transitioned. But it's fair enough to like notice patterns and to say, well, these kinds of people or those kinds of people are overrepresented. And like it doesn't seem to be making a whole lot of people happy, because look at trans people, like she can say what she wants and they all just blame it on societal transphobia. I'm sorry, man. There's more to it than that. Like, it doesn't seem to be making a lot of people happy, I don't think.
You're a medical professional.
Yeah.
You understand correlation between different things at a higher level. So if 1% of people are X, but in the particular population it's 10X, that would point to something, right? So the fact that people who are referred for gender dysphoria are disproportionately likely to be autistic, gay, experience trauma, etc., wouldn't that point to something?
Well, the trauma one's not, that statistic is not right.
Okay.
The trauma that people with gender dysphoria experience is trauma because of their gender identity.
Okay, fine. You're the
Bro, what are we saying? How do you get trauma because of your gender identity? You get treated a certain way because you look a certain way. That's not really your gender identity. And the answer there is, well, society ideally should become more like, you know, a lot of these like unwritten rules and a lot of this shit that people put stock into when it comes to what men should be and what women should be. That doesn't really actually matter very much. We should like try and like bring a lot of that down, I would say. But like trauma? I don't know, what kind of trauma are we talking about? Like, I don't know, man. I worked in a Weatherspoon when I started my transition in like a shitty fucking working class Tory town. I got a lot of shit for being trans. It hasn't traumatized me. I knew what I was getting into, and I'm like, well, I need to make money. And like most people are fine. You just get the odd dickhead. But then, like most people experience shit from the odd dickhead in their life. That's not like a unique thing to being trans.
The one that mentioned is why I brought it
like trans people aren't getting fucking the shit kicked out of them on a daily basis, you know what I mean?
up. But
Yeah.
the gay and autistic point.
So gay, that sexuality is a difficult one
I
because
like how he just accepted that as well.
people who are living in a particular gender role are maybe confused about their sexuality because, like, you know, I've got this body, but I'm attracted to this person. I've got this hormone profile, and it's all mixed up. Where is it? So there is a.
Well, what would you get trauma from that happened because you're a boy that wouldn't be traumatic to anyone else, you know? Like, if you get beaten up, something can happen to anyone. Like, I feel like we're trying to expand what trauma means to include stuff that if you're traumatized by that, then there's probably like deeper issues, you know? People got to be expected to take some shit and get on with it. And if you're not able to do that, then like don't fucking transition. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, you got to be thick-skinned. You got to be able to take some shit.
Confusion with sexuality and gender identity, but that doesn't mean what the common misconception that transgender people are just closet gay people. You know, that confusion is not.
It wasn't what anyone said.
borne out by medical research. And the other one you mentioned is autism. And again, it's difficult. Again, you know, we're not looking at public opinion. If you look at medical research, it's difficult because there's overlap. So young people with autism can have difficulties in social situations. Young people who are transgender can have difficulties in social situations, and sometimes the two are confused. So you're
saying they're not actually autistic?
Many transgender people who have a diagnosis of autism are not autistic.
How do you know that?
Because research, that's what our research shows.
So the research shows that people who think they're autistic are not actually autistic?
Well, they don't think they're autistic. They get given a label by somebody else. We call it diagnosis as autistic.
So you're saying they're being misdiagnosed as autistic?
Many, yeah. Because there's overlap between the presentation of people with autism and people who are gender dysphoric and struggling with social situations.
Do you want to know something? I worked in the One Spoons, where the toilets were just behind like a single door in the rest of the pub. I think it's the One Spoons in the country that you don't have to do like a fucking marathon to get to the toilet, up like 3 flights of stairs and down a bunch of corridors.
Nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. What you're saying, that somebody goes to get an autism diagnosis and they talk about wanting to play with the other toys, because you did just use gender roles. I don't think you meant to. And then someone would say, well, I'm going to give you an autism diagnosis, but really they think they're born in the wrong body and they get an autism diagnosis. Are you honestly going to say that?
There are many transgender young people who are given a diagnosis of autism when actually their social difficulties.
Wait, so she's saying that like people who are trans get mistakenly diagnosed with autism when actually it's a sign they're trans? Like this is nonsense, man. What are we fucking saying? It makes sense. It makes sense that more autistic people would transition. At least I think so. From my understanding of autism, it makes a lot of sense.
If you like, are due to their gender incongruence.
That's just basically not. Tell me.
Yeah, Noctis, I get what you're saying. I think that's quite an extreme case, though. I think that probably wouldn't account for very many people.
How that would manifest. What do you think gave the person who gave them the autism diagnosis the idea that because they found social situations difficult?
Yeah,
that's a trans thing, is it?
Because if your body is developing as, let's use the example of a female to male, if your body is developing as a female, but actually you're male, it's very difficult to then fit in. You talked about peers.
Right, I'm sorry, Mom. This is chicken or the egg shit. Like, is a person trans because they didn't fit in, which can happen. It can affect like your whatever. Or do they not fit in at school because they're trans and they developed wrong? Like, how on earth would you like justify this? Again, like there's so much pseudoscience with someone like this. And I guess I wouldn't care as much, but she like runs a fucking clinic.
Earlier, it's
like, there is no way that we would know this. This is just spitballing. She's just making things up at this point.
It's difficult to fit in with that peer group when your body's doing that. When
Have
the
you ever
rest
seen
of
an autism diagnosis?
Are you going to let me finish or not? When the rest of you's doing
honestly.
that. So, and that can cause social difficulties. Imagine being in school.
That's not what autism.
Can it? How would we establish any of this? How would we establish that someone's social difficulties were because they developed in the wrong body, which she is saying wrong body, by the way? Like, how do we establish that someone had social difficulties growing up because they're trans? Like, I did not get on with other kids at all. It wasn't because I was growing up in the wrong body. It's because I didn't know how the fuck to be around other people. And when I was around other people, I'd kind of act like a dick and people wouldn't like it very much. But I never really learned how to act in a way that didn't put people off. Like, we're just making things up. I'm sorry. It's just made up. It's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And she is pushing the wrong body shit. Which is the biggest fucking cliche that all the dipshit gender critical types like fucking Billboard Steve and all that constantly push. Oh, you're saying that people born in the wrong body. Oh, well, no child is born wrong. No, I agree they're not born wrong. And we don't push the idea that someone is born in the wrong body. Because it makes no sense. Like, where's it come from? What's a right or a wrong body? Or depending on your gender identity, what's your gender identity?
Is so, Helen.
But your body is developing as a girl. It's difficult. Those social
you might get away with this.
It's complete bollocks.
nonsense with other people. And I'm sure loads of people just afford you so many social graces, but I find it very difficult. And
To understand, yeah.
No, to listen to you just tell lies. And
Dude, that would have made me seriously want to take one of those mugs and fucking smash it against the wall. I cannot with like the condescension.
autism diagnosis is not dependent on how someone is just socially. There's so many different things in order to get an autism diagnosis. It's really difficult to get one. People don't want to label kids autistic, and yet you're now saying, oh, well, some of those people, they were really trans, so that's why they're overrepresented. I'm going to say to you quite categorically, and everybody at home can look it up, you're telling lies.
What are they going to look up? Helen's telling.
I don't know if she's lying. I think she probably, well, if she believes the shit she's saying, the problem is there's just nothing to back this up. Like, how would you even begin to substantiate this beyond, oh, well, some 40-year-old AGP told me that he had no friends in school and wished he was a girl.
Lies. What is it? What specifically they're going to look up?
They're going to look up the research of why autistic kids are overrepresented in the children that also say that they have gender dysphoria.
So which research are you pointing them to?
Well, certainly not the one that says, oh, some of them were accidentally misdiagnosed.
No.
No, I've read the CAST review.
Oh.
I mean, we could point score if you like, but maybe we should get back to why you think it's okay to take an 11-year-old's word. No, because I don't think you've explained it. And I think people coming to you with children, because clearly that's why we're having this conversation, so you can get lots of exposure. And you know, I'm happy for you to do it. I think you know that the whole industry is about to, like, just fall flat on its face because everybody knows it's disgusting. So I get it. I understand why you're here, and I'm more than happy to be here with you. And
What the fuck was that?
So I get it. I understand why you're here, and I'm more than happy.
Is that sorry again? Oh.
To be here with you. And
I don't know. I think there's a lot of trans people out there. Maybe they don't get a lot of like positive interactions with people. So maybe they come across like ultimate fucking pander or grifter losers like Helen. And they welcome it because it's better than what they usually get. To me, I feel like when someone is virtue signaling this hard and pandering this hard to trans people, of which I am one, to me, I see that as like, it comes off manipulative. I feel like someone's bullshitting me. You know what I mean?
On trigonometry. But I want you to get to the granular thing where you explain to everybody why it's okay to take the view of an...
See, I don't think if you believe something that you say that you're a liar. I think at that point you're just like wrong about something. And she's wrong about something whilst also making a lot of money off of it and potentially harming people.
An 11-year-old child, and then give them drugs that make them a medical patient for life. And I'd just like you to explain at 11 what understanding they might have about the repercussions of the medical pathway that you're happy to put them on.
So 11-year-olds are quite able to speak and be listened to and heard by listening adults.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that they're going to be able to make decisions for the rest of their life. How many 11-year-olds choose a career that they will stick to? How many 11-year-olds, like, how many of them have interests that they're not going to keep up with as they get older? You know what I mean? How many of them know who they're going to want to sleep with? How many of them know if they're going to want to have kids or even get married or whatever shit?
Some adults would dismiss them.
Like, what the fuck did I think I wanted to do when I was a kid? I can't even remember.
And some adults would listen to them.
I would.
And I know you would, and that's very sad. And there are many things that an 11-year-old might tell us, which might be difficult to hear. And our reception to those things that they're telling us is really important.
Okay, actually, I'm a bad example for like 11-year-olds thinking they know what they want to do, because I was already playing guitar by then. But I thought nu metal was still going to be big, and I was going to be in like a nu metal band and shit.
Important. I mean, how many times has a child been told, I don't believe you, and the harm that does. So an 11-year-old is perfectly able to...
Sometimes you have to tell kids that they're wrong. Sometimes you have to push back on what a kid's saying, you know?
tell us how they perceive themselves and their gender identity. And, you know, maybe people have this view that an 11-year-old goes to their mum one day and says, "Mum, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy." And then the next day they go to the doctors, and then the next day they get puberty blockers. It doesn't work like that. We have a whole childhood to listen to, not that one snapshot of an 11-year-old. And you talk about the medical...
Well, it's what they remember. It's how they're interpreting their prior, like, thoughts and feelings. And it's the same with the adults that she insists. Like, there's a quote of her saying something like, you know, we say, how can kids know? But if you talk to adults, they knew when they were kids. It's like, well, no, they are interpreting their memories a certain way. Like, in a sense, it is a snapshot of the person that you're listening to.
Medical pathway. There are many medical pathways that we put children on when their body hasn't worked in the way that necessarily it was designed to do. And we've talked about asthma, we've talked about diabetes, we've talked about cancer suppression, talked about operations that children sometimes have that leave them, that didn't go quite well and leave them with a deformity or what have you, after something as simple as a broken bone. So sometimes in medicine there is a longer pathway, and for young people who are transgender who wish to switch their hormones from...
I gotta ask, has Helen Webberley, the closest I can think of is the Cambridge thing that she spoke at and Buck Angel spoke at, and there were opposite sides. Has Helen Webberley ever talked to a trans person that disagrees with her? I think that's something that is like really necessary, because she can't patronize a trans person on this topic the way she can patronize someone like Kelly J. Keane. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'd do it. Fucking hell. Someone who actually has pull in this kind of thing. I'll fucking do it. I really think that if she spoke to a trans person that disagrees, she would have to take a different tact.
From that one to that one, it is a long journey.
Would you listen to them on other aspects of life? Do you listen to an 11-year-old?
I listen to children, everything they tell me.
So what if an 11-year-old comes to you and says, "I really want to have sex. I'm old enough. I feel it. Oh, I felt it for so long. It's in my... I know it's the right thing for me." Are they allowed to consent to that?
Well, as a doctor, you know, I would take a different view to as a parent. And what we need...
You think she'd talk down to a trans person the same way? See, I don't think she would. I don't think she would. She debated Blair White. She was on the same thing as Blair White, I think. But it was about trans sports, and she wasn't entirely... And, like, if it's Piers Morgan, that barely counts either, to be honest. Yeah, it was this whole thing. But I'm pretty sure even Helen was, like, not being completely demented on this for once.
To do is be looking after that child, and who are they having sex with? But I think that's very different from a doctor.
Like, the point she's making here is like, well, there are boundaries. Sometimes a kid wants something and you say, well, no, you can't do that. This probably isn't in your best interest, even if you think it is.
Sitting down with a child and family and discussing...
Would you say that was a greater harm, having...
I think
an 11-year-old having sexual activity, would you say that's a greater harm than changing their genitals and their body?
Well, obviously you need the whole picture, but I would feel very uncomfortable about an 11-year-old having sex.
So they don't always know. So sometimes you can't trust them.
But I don't know how many 11-year-olds have come to you and said, "I want to have sex."
Well, none of
this matters. Like, the point is, you probably just shouldn't take a child's word every single time.
Said to me, "I think I'm born in the wrong body."
I know, and that's the problem. You speak with such conviction.
Yeah.
Well, hold on,
when you haven't been in the situation.
Running a business for as long as I have, you start to notice that's qeo.com/trig. Kelly's making the point that you wouldn't let an 11-year-old decide whether she or he gets to have sex or not, because they're not to be trusted at that age. They're not competent to make that decision. And her point is that medically transitioning is way more impactful and way more complicated. So what do you say to that? I mean, that's a good argument, isn't it?
I think it's a bizarre argument, really, because having sex is not a medical condition. Having sex involves some...
Still not getting the point. Like, anything she can do, anything.
Somebody else doing things with that 11-year-old that they apparently 11-year-old is asking permission to do. I mean, it's a bizarre situation. We're talking
it's not
about
as bizarre to many people as having 11-year-olds.
Note how suddenly she can't broaden out her thinking. When it suits her, that's all she wants people to do is like broaden out their thinking about something. When asked to, she won't do it. Has to be like hyper specific. Well, sex and transitioning aren't the same thing. Well, no, they're not. But the point is, there are things that you would say no to a kid for. And that potentially would include medically transitioning, because it might not be the right thing for them. And it probably isn't as urgent as we're pretending it is, because it's not actually that urgent. For most people, they don't really need to transition the second they feel a certain thing.
Have their genitals removed or have
no, but the
puberty
11-year-olds
I have a good one, Nina. Thank you.
aren't having genitals
or
removed,
having
are they?
the hormones of the opposite sex. It's a very simple question, really. I
And
think,
I did answer it.
No, you didn't.
Okay, well, ask me
Let me ask it again in a simple way. Her point is very simple. You're saying that an 11-year-old is capable of making a decision about whether they should transition or not, right? With medical support and blah, 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 but nonetheless, they're capable in some situations. Not all 11-year-olds, but many. And her point is, if your 11-year-old came and asked you to do something else, there are lots of situations in which you just say, there's no way you're doing that, right? Because they're 11 and you as a parent and doctors and whatever would just be like, you're not supposed to do that. So you accept, therefore, that 11-year-olds don't always know what's right for them and sometimes they'll be wrong, right?
Yep.
Therefore, if an 11-year-old comes to you and says, I need to medically transition to the opposite sex, they may be wrong about that. Okay, therefore we shouldn't.
You should consider liking the stream. Don't forget you can super chat on YouTube or Streamlabs in the link in chat. You can join the channel for a few pounds a month, etc.
Just take their word for it.
But it's not a one step. So you don't come to the doctor at 11 with your parents and say, I decided yesterday that I want to change sex, and then you're done for the rest of your life. It doesn't work like that. So we do lots of talking, lots of discussion, lots of...
Hannah Barnes, who we had on the show, who did the investigation on this for the BBC, she said that what she found is some people were prescribed puberty blockers after 2 sessions with a consultant. Does that sound like...
I'm pretty sure sometimes it's even 1. What was it? What was the Telegraph thing? Hang on. I can't read the Telegraph usually. I have some... Hang on. Because the Telegraph did an expose on gender GP. Give me one sec. I need to find it. And I'm sure they found that it was like 1 appointment. Where are we? Oh, it's there. Telegraph. Oh, this Marianne Oakes person seems insane as well, by the way. Oh, so this was 2 appointments. Technically 3. And they didn't ask to speak to her parents or really take any real detail. What was the other one? So there was one that was like a teenager saying, oh, my parents aren't supportive. And the other one was like parents saying, oh, my child's 12 and wants to be a girl. So yeah, this Marianne Oakes person told them they wouldn't even necessarily speak to a doctor, like just one of their counselors. And from what I remember of the court transcripts and stuff, their counselors weren't really qualified in anything specific. Like they weren't really qualified to be offering the kind of services that they were. Geez, I don't even know where I'd find it. Jesus Christ. I've got so much shit saved. Wasn't this, was it? I can't remember. There was definitely some issues with like the kind of counselors that Gender GP had, not really being qualified to work with these kids in the way they were. And by the way, she does this whole, you have to take it as a whole thing, you know, gender affirming care. Staff are saying there was too little clinical evidence to say whether it would affect his ability to have children. Well, if you take gender affirming care as a whole, he's almost certainly going to end up infertile, you know.
Sufficient.
But the consultant would be the pediatric endocrinologist who would prescribe the puberty blockers.
Right.
I don't know what her take is on all the sessions.
Yeah, that wasn't what I saw. My understanding is they don't have like pediatric endocrinologists. Like everyone that contacts Gender GP does not have to see a pediatric endocrinologist. And I don't know what qualifications Helen has in that regards. Michael had fuck all. And that was one of the things that was found in his tribunal.
That the child had had with the family and social workers and
at the Tavistock, it was 2 sessions for some people, and they would get. That's what she said.
With the endocrinologist, maybe, but the evaluation with the psychological and family team. I mean, all the criticisms were that it went on for years and
How
years.
long do your
years.
patients have? The people that you refer, how long do they have?
I don't.
Hey, what was the Hannah Barnes claim? I don't think I have time to think. Like, I would be amazed if Hannah Barnes said you have to have 2 appointments and then you get puberty blockers. I would be amazed if she meant 2 appointments with a specific kind of doctor. I don't think that's true at all. I don't know. I don't think I have this book. It's meant to be pretty good. And like, I know that there's that kind of thing. I'm pretty sure sometimes it's 1 appointment in the US, depending on the clinic. Yeah, 2 consultations. I mean, it's not made clear, but I have a feeling that Helen's just being pedantic and trying to make it seem not as bad as it was.
I don't practice medicine at the moment.
But you refer people. That's the gender. You said at the beginning.
Used to. She said used to.
So you don't. What do you do now? You don't refer anyone. You don't have patients.
I don't work in medical practice. I said that at the beginning.
Okay, I know.
Wait. So who runs Gender GP then? Because Gender GP does refer people. Unless your name's Alphabet or Ryan Doherty, in which case they don't refer you. I'm sorry, niche joke. Yeah, she's the founder, and she's still on the website. Your path to authentic you. I hate this kind of shit so much. I hate this kind of shit. Am I watching the solar eclipse? I would love to, but I don't have like a thing I can do it with. What time is it at? A debate with Amaya was wild. Listen, I'm used to it by now. A lot of those kinds of people that are like kind of woke leaning, they're not really listening. Or they like tune out whenever it's like gender stuff. I had the same thing with the trough. I ended up finding out that he actually just ignored all the stuff I did when it came to talking about like gender shit. And we had like a conversation and stuff. And I kind of brushed it off that I thought it was just kind of playing a character and like trolling. But then he just went back to the same shit eventually. And then it turned out that he actually wasn't fucking listening to a single thing. I think Amaya was doing a similar thing, to be honest. But then Amaya's like constantly on fucking ketamine and like MDMA and shit. Always fucking high on something. And taking ketamine regularly is fucking terrible for your stomach. Our experts Oh, so she's going to be claiming it's these people are the ones that are referring people now. Maybe she still owns the clinic and obviously found it and shit. I guess technically she's not lying here.
No, but you do something, Helen. You make your money somehow. So
Well, hold on. So, Gender GP, how many, before you refer people for puberty blockers, how many sessions would they have?
Well, it depends. I mean, Gender GP is a...
What's the minimum number of sessions?
There's no minimum. There's no minimum.
So
or
someone can have
maximum.
one.
No, there is a minimum because on the one hand, you've got someone who had the fewest amount of appointments needed to get the drugs they want. And on the other hand, you have people that have more than that. So, like, what's the lowest amount someone's had, you know?
Anything.
One session. And you just go, okay, you got gender dysphoria, off you go.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Well, for the reason that...
Oh, yeah. The conversation with Amaya I posted recently, it was a bit of a shit show. I ended up calling her a nonce and stuff, which was probably going a bit too far, you know. Telling her that being in the US Army was basically being in the largest terrorist organization in the world. I think at that point I was just, I didn't give a fuck anymore. Amaya can't hang with me. Amaya is way too sensitive. They know what the fuck they're talking about. They are a terrible representation for WPATH, which I don't know if they're still a member, but they used to be. All it really did is cement to me that WPATH is a bullshit organization.
We've just been talking about, which is children.
We're talking about 11. Oh, okay. Well, hang on a minute. Because when
You tell me. I'm just asking.
So what happens is there are criteria. Okay, so the WHO have criteria. The DSM, Diagnostic and Systematic Medicine, has criteria.
Yeah, the DSM for like childhood gender dysphoria is things like playing with opposite gender toys, like wanting to wear certain things. It is just pathologizing gender nonconformity.
DSM-5, and once you've fulfilled those criteria, then you kind of become eligible. It's a bit like the test Kelly was talking about earlier. You know, the brain scan says, okay, yes, you are eligible for this treatment or that medical condition and what have you. So once somebody fulfills those criteria, then they become eligible for medical intervention.
And what are the criteria?
They are things like, does your gender identity differ from the sex you're
What does that mean? What do you, like, how can that be a criteria? How would you possibly know other than someone telling you? How does that person know what their gender identity is? Again, no one asks what gender identity is in Helen's world. I think a far more interesting conversation than being like, oh, you know, most people find this disgusting. What if we asked about, like, the concept of gender identity and what the fuck it means according to this person? It just seems to be this magical thing that just exists within you and is more important than anything else. But, like, what even is it, you know?
Sign of birth. How long have you felt that way? Has it always been like that? We call it insistent, persistent.
So if you felt trans for a while,
yeah,
then you qualify.
And what does that mean?
Yeah, honestly, gender incongruence, I think we need to get rid of. It's a bullshit term. It relies on something that is ill-defined as fuck. You're just unhappy with your sex, maybe.
What does trans mean to a 9-year-old?
It means that everyone is calling them a girl, but actually everything inside.
And you would explore, though, wouldn't you, Helen? You would explore and you would ask, why do they feel like that? So how many children that have come to you that have you thought, no, it's not right. It's not right for them. I'm not going to treat this person. I'm not going to recommend them for treatment.
I would say...
I don't think she's ever rejected anyone. I don't know what it would take. I think the people that don't end up going on to, like, her treatments are the ones that back out.
When I was practicing maybe 4 or 5, I would say, listen, let's just wait.
Out of how many?
Out of maybe...
It'll be thousands. It'll be fucking thousands. 4 or 5 out of 1,000. They come to you saying, I don't like my gender or whatever. You hand out the drugs. That's the fucking business model. It's a fucking dispensary. Minimal gatekeeping. Doesn't matter. Nothing matters. They come to you and you sell them the drugs.
I don't know, 200 actually in my clinic.
Okay, so quite a small number. What out of those, because it's a small number, so I'm sure you remember them quite clearly, what out of those made you think it wasn't right?
I'm not going to go into specific details.
Bro, oh, I hate this person. What a fucking loser. She can't.
You wouldn't.
Oh, really?
I thought you wouldn't.
But it's about capacity to consent. That's what we call it, informed consent in medicine.
Yeah, so what is it about someone that would mean they can't consent? She needs to, like, I hope it gets put to her that basically what it means is people just come to you saying, I want this, and you give it to them, which isn't really how medicine should work. She goes on about, like, oh, you know, I'm a medic, I know all this. But she wants to remove the medic from the equation. So what does it take to decide that a treatment isn't suitable for someone, you know?
You have to make sure that that person understands what they are hoping for and what the intervention
Just to go back to your answer where you said they would say, everyone calls me a girl, but I'm a boy. What's the basis of them saying I'm a boy? And I don't think...
Okay, finally we are trying to get onto the gender identity thing.
Innate when you're talking about 7, 8, 9-year-olds. I don't think just saying that they just said it is going to cut it for most people for an explanation. So what is it that they report is why they feel like the opposite sex?
Because everyone is saying they are a boy, but actually they identify as a girl.
Yeah, but come on.
So it's identity. So what's gender identity? So don't fucking soy out. Jesus Christ, this is terrible. Don't soy out what's gender identity. What does it mean to identify as something?
You have to expand on that a little bit because anybody could...
Because bear in mind, their gender identity is what they were born with. So how do we square all this, you know?
To you, because anything I say...
No, to this audience that you've decided to come and speak in front of.
Yeah,
so they're interested.
Well, let me explain. I'll explain it to the audience. It is very simple.
Oh, if it's at 18, 19, I'll still be streaming. I'll know why my audience, my viewership dips, if that's the case.
Birth certificate said boy because they had a penis, and they were put in the boy group for all of their up until this day that we're talking about. But actually, they look over at the girl group and go, "I fit in much better there."
What? How many trans women actually fit in with women that well? I'm sorry.
Fit in with what? Fit in with... So
I'll tell you something. If she thinks that means that is how you know you're trans, then I wasn't trans, because I didn't fit in with the fucking girls any more than the fucking boys. If anything, I've had a lot more male friends over my life than female friends. And I think largely that's probably more because, I don't know, some of my interests are like stereotypically male. Like I play guitar and I've been in like bands playing like rock music and shit. You just get a lot more guys doing that than women. So that's probably a big factor in that. But still, like... what are we saying? Like, how many trans people are we even describing when we say this? I didn't fucking fit in with the girls at all when I was a kid. I barely fit in with the boys.
There are some people, detransitioners and others, that said, "Oh, I knew I was a girl because I liked my sister's Barbies," or "I knew I was a boy because I really hated playing with dolls and I wanted to climb trees."
The thing is, what's wrong with being a boy that gets on better with girls? What's wrong with being a boy that in some way relates more with women? It doesn't make him one. It just means that he relates more with them. And like, we're all human. Like, there's going to be crossover regardless, you know?
And I was always in dresses, so I couldn't join in. So that would be them in a child's mind, in a child's brain, and that would be them saying, "I definitely didn't fit in here. I should have been over there." That would have been enough for them. And children, especially autistic children, can get really fixed on that. That will be the little fix, or maybe their dad has a bit of a go at them as a bit of a bully because he's playing with dolls. So those would be really good drivers for a child to do something. And I'm sure when your kids...
I hope she will at least understand it. Like, if your kid wants to do like girly shit and you shame them, it does kind of seem like that can drive this kind of thing. You know, like, you kind of, I don't know. I've heard too many stories, like from AGP, like older males, that like tried something on as a kid and got told off for it, and it kind of got internalized. I think there is a pattern there.
So doing it, maybe your son's at that age, whatever time and night it is that you have however many stories, as you go to switch the light off, "Oh, can I just," and they'll find something else. And that's their way of spending a little more time with you, because kids are quite good.
They suggested that gay people are more likely to transition But I don't think anyone said transing the gay away, thankfully, because that shit makes me cringe.
Those sort of manipulations. So couldn't it be that a boy saying to their parents, I'm a girl, and their parents just stop the world and everyone focuses on that? Couldn't that be enough motivation for them to stay with that and be persistent and consistent? And then you would medicalise that child because they would be able
It is possible.
to report for the last 2 years. They've been saying this.
This is not only possible, but Helen Webberley wouldn't give a shit. She wouldn't care if the real driver for it is that they're getting more attention and people are doting on them more now.
And all it is their parents maybe were a little too busy and that was their source of attention.
Well, luckily, psychologists, counsellors and doctors are a bit cleverer than that.
One session you said sometimes that was enough.
For adults, yeah.
No.
No, yes.
No, that's not what we were talking about,
Well,
though.
no, we can rewind and have a look whether I was talking about adults or children.
So children, how many sessions with children?
I'm going to respond to what you were talking about then for the viewers at home, okay? The thing is, right, you're talking about children who don't like playing with dolls, they like playing with trucks, or children who want to have their hair long, or children who don't want to wear skirts or trousers. Those are children who like playing with trucks. They're children who like wearing skirts or trousers. They are not saying what transgender children say, which is, I am a girl. And there's a very big difference to what you want to play with or what clothes you want to wear or how you want.
But why do they say that they're a girl? What are the reasons that they think they're the other sex? And bear in mind, you're talking about someone literally believing that they are the other sex, which is not most trans people. Most trans people, I don't think, actually believe they are the other sex. They might feel like they should have been the other sex. They might, you know, there's a lot of things. They might just have a very strong preference for one or the other, like being one or the other. But we're talking about like a literal kind of delusion and trying to pretend that it isn't that it's a real thing. But to most trans people, it doesn't work this way. I don't literally think I'm a woman. I never did. I never went to the gender clinic saying, I'm a woman. Like, that didn't happen. I still transitioned. Like, she's taking an extreme, like, position here. And it's like, it's kids you're talking about.
You want to wear your hair, to actually listening hard to say...
Do they even ask why a kid feels that way?
They've got it wrong, Mummy. Everyone is saying I'm a boy.
So what is it then?
Actually, I'm a girl.
Like, what is a trans identity?
I'd be amazed if that doesn't come from, like, gender shit. It doesn't come from wanting to do what other girls are doing instead of doing what boys are doing when you're a boy. I'd be amazed if that's probably not the main driver there, if anything.
Identity then for you, it's not, you said it's not a mental illness, we can't find it anywhere physically, you say, so what is it?
I know it's difficult for you to understand.
Just explain it.
Because there isn't the thing that you're asking for, but that doesn't
So how do we know it exists then?
mean it's not real.
So it exists somewhere
you're
else.
So how do you know it's real though?
You're asking for a test or an exam or a result or a blood
I'm
test or
asking
something.
you what it is.
Yeah.
You're an expert, aren't you?
I am
What
an
is
expert.
it?
It is what someone tells you. It is what someone tells you how...
Yeah, I guarantee you, most people when they say trans and the gay away aren't talking about the Tavistock Clinic. They're talking about what they perceive as like a concerted effort to get gay kids and turn them straight. That's what they're talking about. I've listened to enough Mr. Menno.
how they identify. And now you roll your eyes.
Like, it's a conspiracy theory. It's not just some dark joke that someone made. It goes further than that. It's a conspiracy theory.
It's like, well, what do you want me to say?
Well,
I don't have anything more concrete than...
But the point is, like, if you don't know that this exists, and it seems to just be something that's kind of completely unfalsifiable, like the existence of God or something, is that a good enough reason to alter their entire life, especially when they might change their mind? Is that going to fly with the kind of kids that later in life do feel like they made a mistake?
Somebody's internal sense of self.
But we're all parents, and I've watched my son. I mean, he's a little younger than that.
She heard some people say, oh, I want quicker healthcare, and she saw dollar signs. Sorry about it.
That we're talking. I mean, he's been identifying as everything from a train to a dolphin to a whatever, right? Children have imaginations that are somewhat detached from reality, don't they?
But I think probably, I mean, I don't know your son, but I think he's not identifying as a train. He's maybe pretending to be a train. But a train is a...
How do you know?
Is a vehicle, a motorized...
Why is it that whatever the fuck she conceives of gender identity as being, why can't that apply to other things? And if you'll say, well, a train isn't a living thing, well, why can't someone identify as a dog? And if you'll say, well, a dog isn't human, and it's not a human concept like gender, then, well, can someone identify as a different race?
Vehicle. You can't identify as a train. A dolphin is a different species of animal. You can't identify as a dolphin.
What if someone literally thinks that that's what they are, in the way that people apparently literally think that they're the other sex?
But gender identity is an identity. You can identify as a gender.
Well, you're applying a
Why?
rule that you've invented, right? Like,
Yeah, true. Fucking finally.
like you're saying you can't identify as that. So why can't I identify as it? There's people in British schools who identify as cats and go in to school, and everyone's supposed to respect their identity.
Well, I know that's the example everyone likes to bring up, the astronaut or the table.
But is it not true?
No, it's not
So
true.
there's no one who identifies as cat gender.
Well,
It doesn't even matter whether there is anymore. It's, why does it make sense that you can identify as a different gender but nothing else?
that's not what we're talking about.
Well, no, that's what I'm talking about. I am saying
I've never met anybody in my medical or professional career or my social life or my motherhood that identifies as a cat.
That doesn't mean there aren't people who claim to be cat gender, which they objectively are.
If they wish to
But
be.
you say they can't. How dare you to be so cat-phobic, or whatever the term would be? That would be the argument. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Well,
right?
you can, but I can't answer that question.
No, the reason it's important is the point that I'm trying
Yeah,
to...
we're talking about like the function of identity. She can't answer any questions that flesh out what she thinks the function of identifying as something even is.
make to you, which is children.
And people want this woman to help their children. It's terrifying. Like, I don't know. I think the only way you can support someone like this, surely, is that you've never listened to them speak.
Are capable of identifying lots of things. My son, for example,
They pretend to be lots of.
well, pretend to be.
So how do you know someone's not pretending to be a girl when they're not?
But
Yeah.
but that's the word that Kelly would use about someone claiming to be transgender at 11. They'd say they're pretending.
But they're not claiming to be transgender. They're claiming to be
The opposite
a
sex,
gender
fine.
identity.
Oh my god, she's so fucking patronizing.
Yeah.
They're
She's so
saying,
fucking pedantic. You have to ask the question in the exact perfect way that she can't weasel out of. It's like so irritating. It's so fucking annoying.
to you, and we would listen.
How is
And
that
I
different
hope
from identifying a dolphin?
You can't identify as a dolphin. A dolphin is a mammal that lives in the sea.
What does it mean to identify as something?
You can't identify as a dolphin.
Why
But
they're
that's
more-
not a good argument. You can identify as anything.
We don't have dolphin identity, do we? But we do have
Dude, just ask the question. What does it mean to identify as something? Please, I fucking beg you.
gender identity. You know, it's,
Because people invented it and said this identity now exists. 20 years ago, it didn't exist. No one was talking about it.
it's always existed.
Well, it hadn't been coined. As to whether it exists, but we don't know. Does God exist? Has God always existed? We don't know.
It's always existed.
Always.
Yeah.
So the ancient Babylonians had gender identity.
If you have a look in the history books, and if you want to Google history of it, it's actually very interesting. This has existed for many, 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 many years. It's just in the last decade it's become.
I don't think this is true. I think gender nonconformity has always existed, because gender has always existed.
Very political and topical, but gender identity, I find it very interesting. If we can just put aside the discrimination and the bias and the
And even if it has been a thing that's always existed, in the sense that people conceived of themselves as being something else to what they are, that doesn't mean that it exists. It just means that it's been a human construct for a long time.
prejudice and the disbelief, is actually very interesting. And what it is that people who have XY chromosomes, and your XY chromosomes give you a penis and testicles, mostly, most of those people will identify as what we understand to be male. And people with X chromosomes and ovaries, most of those will identify as with what we understand as female, but not all. And it really is that simple.
This is so fucking stupid. This is not what makes you trans. This completely invalidates plenty of actual trans people's actual experiences, who just don't conceive of it this way. This is just the easiest answer for someone that wants to make money off of this. This is the easy answer for someone that wants to justify a business model based on taking people's money as quick as possible and giving them what they're asking for and not worrying about the consequences.
Do we understand?
And let me finish. What's happening at the moment is that there is real hurt going on to people who are transgender.
Virtue signaling, you're not helping, shut the fuck up. Thank you.
A lot of hurt, a lot of discrimination, a lot of pain.
Perhaps there'd be less hurt and discrimination if we left kids alone and conceived of trans in a way that makes fucking sense.
And a lot of loss of life. And I think we have some responsibility to the public here to understand the pain that transgender people are going through. And there are some people who don't believe that transgender people...
How many of those transgender people are going through pain because they are being scaremongered too constantly by not only their own fucking community, but also their supposed allies like this fucking dipshit here? How many of them are internalizing it when they're constantly being told, oh, we're being like genocided and shit? Because it's being told to them, where they're often much younger and more impressionable, by older people like this, who carry some level of authority to a lot of people. How much of that makes these people suffer?
People exist. But I just want to take you back to our Equality Act, where people who have undergone gender reassignment have a protected characteristic. So in the UK, we have a law which protects transgender people. And in my book, that means that they exist. And
what does that even mean? Protects them how?
That we should be respectful of.
So because there's a law, I'm just looking at the camera, fucking loser. So because there's a law, that's why they exist.
Transgender people.
It's she loves to defer the answer to someone else. Well, someone else says it. Someone else says it. It's bullshit. I'm sorry, man.
And in my book, that means that they exist and that we should be respectful of them.
This is why people like this will never get in any kind of trouble, even if it turns out that they've like hurt people. Because they can just point to other people. Oh, well, I was just following like WPATH standards, you know. Oh, well, in law, they say that it's this, therefore I'm just going along with it. Well, other people, you know, whatever.
I'm certainly not being disrespectful to anybody. I'm sorry?
Good, I said good.
Okay, well, you said let's set aside the discrimination, whatever, none of which I was doing. I'm just trying to...
Respect is earned, not owed, by the way.
Use the arguments that you're presenting and analyze them logically. That's the only thing I do on the show, is trying to understand what people are saying.
People think that I'm like transphobic because I criticize this kind of shit and I criticize other trans people that push like bullshit. Actually, if you're the kind of trans person that I respect, it's the same as anyone else. But you have to earn my respect. I think you get a lot of like, I get this vibe from people like Frida. She has to be like in control. She has to be in charge. And she knows that I don't take that from people. She knows that like, you got to earn that with me. Like, I'll let you take charge if I believe in you. If I don't, then that ain't gonna fucking happen.
So you say you can't identify as a dolphin, but you can identify as the opposite sex. Why?
Now, you identify it as male or female.
Why?
Or some people identify
What's the difference
as neither.
between identify as a dolphin and identifying
because
as
a male or female is the way that we're describing it here is a human characteristic.
So can you identify as a trans woman? Because if I identify as anything, then that's what I identify as. I identify myself as what I know myself to be, which is a male person who has undergone gender transition, and in some ways lives as a woman rather than a man. But those aren't identities according to her.
A dolphin is a creature that lives in the sea.
I see. Okay, well, can I identify as Napoleon then?
But Napoleon is a person. Napoleon is a person who's dead, so you can't identify as Napoleon.
Can I identify as Andy Burnham? I mean, just stop playing this. Like, you know what I mean.
I'm not. You're playing with me.
No. We need to ask what identity means. We need to ask what it means to identify as something that excludes all of this other shit, but includes gender specifically.
I'm not playing with you at all. I'm saying...
I don't think Andy Burnham would like you to identify as
I don't think he would.
You can pretend to be him if you want to.
Can I ask a question
I'll struggle with that.
So little kids up until about the age of 7, when they're, I can't remember what the hormone's called, but the hormone starts kicking off that then makes the estrogen and testosterone. That happens around sort of 7 or 8. Prior to that, boys and girls are pretty much identical. Like, if you had a little girl with really short hair, Often their behaviours are very the same. There's not really too much that's decipherable between boys and girls.
I don't know. You should meet my 4-year-old.
I think I disagree with this, but I don't know how much of it is like societal and like put on them by adults, you know.
I've got 3 boys and a girl, but I think they are more similar than they are different. That's all I'm going to say. So
Sure.
if you
I think if you were to say boys and girls start becoming more different than they are through puberty, then yeah, probably. I'd probably agree with that.
gave a girl,
They're less different than they are after puberty, for sure. I'll grant you that.
Right.
Okay.
So
There we go. There we go.
when that child says, I am the other thing, what is the other thing? Like you say girl and boy, but specifically, because children can only view the world by what they've seen. So that little boy that says, I'm a girl.
Has anyone ever gone to Helen wanting to transition as like a non-binary person? I wonder.
What is it that he thinks he is?
A girl.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, you
For
just,
him, what is that?
Ooh, you just said that, you know, girls and boys are almost identical pre-age 7. I don't think that's true. I think if you step back and watch a classroom of
Pedantry.
young children, the boys and the girls play very differently. They have different trends. They have different ways of thinking. They have different things that they like to play
How much of that is put on them by like adults though? How much of that is encouraged in some ways?
with, and we're being very generalist there. And, you know, the boys like doing that kind of thing mostly, you know, and the girls like doing that kind of thing mostly. And the thing about a transgender child is that everyone says they're a boy and they're supposed to like behave and think and be like that, but they're looking over there going, but that group fits me much better.
So that's the thing we used to call
behaviour.
like tomboy and effeminate boy.
We literally are just pathologizing like gender nonconformity then. So just let the boy do some girl shit. And if it makes him happy, that's fine, you know.
That's what we used to call it.
Well, the difference,
Right.
the difference, can I just give you the honest difference? The difference is not what I
The difference is they literally think that they're the other sex. The difference is trans people are delusional fucking idiots and need to be talked to like fucking children by this fucking loser.
like to play with, but the difference is what I am.
Exactly. There we go. She literally thinks trans people are delusional. What more do I need to fucking say? Why do people listen to this shit? Except for that, you know, she gives some trans people what they want. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Again, I don't know any trans people that are literally delusional about what sex they are. I don't think that... I think that happens, but I don't think it's even, like, a significant amount of trans people. I think the majority of them know where the fuck they came from.
And so tomboys and effeminate...
And actually, like, I don't know about anywhere else. On the NHS, like when I transitioned, I went to a psychiatrist before I even got referred to a gender clinic. And they were like screening for things like schizophrenia and like bipolar, you know, things that might manifest like delusions. Making sure that you're thinking for yourself and you understand reality, you know what I mean? I bet you very few people are showing up to these things being like, oh, I'm literally a boy. I was born female, but I'm actually literally just a male. And you're just going to have to believe me or I'll end myself, you know? I just don't buy that that's what usually happens. It certainly wasn't me. I was still transitioned.
Feminine girls, okay, you know, feminine boys, I beg your pardon. They're the kind. A tomboy is a girl who likes playing with boys' toys or whatever, or likes climbing trees. But the tomboy never says, "I am a boy." It's just I kind of like boy stuff.
So does she apply this to adults then? How many adults actually come to her saying, "No, I actually am"? I mean, unless, you know, how many of them that do say this like know that that's what she thinks, and so, you know, they know that's how to get what they want.
You know, and that's very different from a transgender child who will come to you and say, "You've got it wrong. I am a boy."
Yeah, but what do they
and you're
think that
calling-"
is? Like, what's their understanding
That's a
of...
good question. What if you think you're a girl, but you're mistaken as to what a girl is? What if you think that you're a woman, or identify as a woman, but you have a flawed concept of what that is? That can happen. You can identify as something you don't understand, therefore are you that thing?
of saying I am? I mean, I think for a small child, saying I am is not really... They don't that doesn't have the sort of weight that it does when you're an adult of saying, I am this thing. So
basically what we're doing, you get kids that'll say, oh, I'm a rock star, I'm a fucking elephant, I'm a whatever the fuck, I'm Spider-Man. It's the same thing, but she wants there to be a special thing for when it's like a trans child. And it's very possible that any child that starts saying that they're the other sex does get that extra attention. You know, they've got parents that might have been scaremongered into thinking that their kid is going to kill themselves if they don't affirm them straight away.
if you're saying that there's some girls over here and he's like, I'm a girl, well, maybe that, no, not maybe. What that means for that child is maybe they don't want to go and play football. Maybe they don't want a bit of rough and tumble. Maybe they find some of the boys quite intimidating. So they are more comfortable over there with those girls.
I think we're going around in circles now. She thinks trans people are delusional. That's where we need to come at this from. That
doesn't mean that they're a boy, unless, like, you talk about internal sense of self, which I think is a crazy thing to talk about children and having it fixed. Often children, prior to this macabre industry that you're involved in, children would go through puberty, often gay, and come out kind of fancying someone and going, oh, it all works now. And you're eradicating that potential for someone just for puberty, just to sort stuff out, which it does. It makes you a bit crazy for a time. But then you're level and everything makes a little bit of sense. And you're totally eradicating the possibility of that. Totally eradicating it. And I don't know how you can sleep at night. That's what I don't
sleep
know.
Really well, don't worry about that.
Well, I'm sure you have a very comfortable bed.
If I can go back to what you were saying. So you made the exact point.
Yeah, that amounted to nothing again. Like, I don't see the point in expressing like offense at someone like Helen Webberley. All you can do is try and pin her down on the logic, because the logic she pushes is ridiculous. Push her on some of the dumb shit she says. I haven't heard them push back on the idea that your gender identity is like fixed from conception. What was this called? Gender identity rights and free speech. Oh, that'll be the hate speech stuff. So yeah, I don't know. This has been underwhelming. It's always underwhelming. These people, I don't think they do enough of their homework on this person. I don't think they bring enough like specific examples of shit she said and drill down on them. And she literally said at the start of this that your identity is fixed from birth, if not conception. That's the kind of thing I'd want to hear someone like get into. Well, how do you make that? How can a person have a gender identity from birth when gender is something that you experience through your life and you internalize? And that's a big factor, I think, in gender identity. Like, how do you cross that? She said something about, like, you know, boys being expected to do this, that, and the other. So she understands this. But it's like, you gotta be able to put all the pieces together. I just don't see anyone doing this. I mean, this is better than the GB News thing or the Talk TV thing, I guess. But fuck me, dude.
It's not about, I don't want to go out there, they're too rough for me, I don't want to play with them, I'd rather play with these. It's, I fit in.
It's about delusion. It's not about fitting in, fuck you, it's about delusion. Just say it. They're deluded about what sex they are.
Here, I am this group.
Right, fit in.
Okay, yeah, I
am this group.
Yes.
Can you hear?
But what if they don't? What if they don't fit in with that group? What if they decide they fit in with that group, yet when they try to, they get rejected? I guess they'll say, oh, well, it's because they're male presenting or something. I don't know.
Yourself.
And you say, you know, you find it very difficult to listen to a child's feelings. I don't. And I don't know how many transgender children you've ever sat with. I have sat with many transgender children.
I don't sit with abusive parents, so I've never sat with a trans kid.
So therefore, it kind of devalues your opinion.
Like, she pushes this, oh, well, I've sat with more trans kids. Well, you're paid to, though. You're paid to. You earn money if they go along with your treatment. You earn money from the people that trust you with their child. That's a specific like dynamic that makes you very like biased and very, there's a specific motivation there, you know?
opinions and impressions. But I have sat with many transgender...
Like the amount of people that think they're like fucking anti-capitalist or whatever, but whenever you come across someone like this that's completely fucking commodified gender identity in this way and is like trying to dominate these conversations and what it even is, even though it really doesn't resonate with lots of trans people and doesn't describe lots of trans people. You get like leftist types, they've got nothing to fucking say. Isn't this meant to be like offensive? Isn't this like the kind of disgusting like capitalist shit you're against? But suddenly it doesn't matter when it's stuff like this.
Children and families, and listened to how does this family understand their child? How do they listen? How are they managing this child's journey through childhood? And you get that picture. And unless you sat with it, it's very difficult.
You've just
but if we
admitted
just
it.
started with a better world where we believed that people are diverse, and some people are gay, and some people are trans, and some people are both. And you know, if we have just sat with that for a minute, I think we'd be a much better society.
If there was a magic pill and all those people who had gender dysphoria or thought that they were born in the wrong body, therefore they wouldn't need cross-sex hormones, they wouldn't need puberty blockers, they wouldn't need a lifelong drugs, they wouldn't need surgeries that alter the way that they can enjoy sex. And don't, a girl with a fake penis is not having sex like a man with a penis. Would you encourage people to take it and then retire if you could cure it? Nobody else was going to be trans, which you admit it's very difficult for them. Would you allow a cure, Helen?
It sounds a bit like, you know, that thing that we used to try and do to gay people, like, oh, let me cure you of that. Let me see if I can find a magic pill
I can't decide whether this question or this answer is more stupid.
to cure you of your gayness. If I had a magic pill to cure people of their transness,
Nobody's having their penis cut off because they're
really
gay.
Horrible.
Nobody's having their penis cut off if they're gay. Would you cure these people in distress?
I think this idea of curing somebody of their innate identity is
so
quite
they didn't need their
horrific.
breasts removed. So they didn't
Innate identity.
need a phalloplasty. So they didn't need to.
She's talking about delusion. That's how people need to see it. That's what I want people to understand. Well, I'm going to harp on this. Maybe I should even like script something, establishing this. This person believes that trans people are delusional. And when you say like innate identity to this person, that means that person literally fucking thinks they're the other sex. That's delusional. And that's not most trans people, I don't think.
To take hormones for the rest of their lives.
I'll come back
would
to
you
that.
cure them? Just would you cure them?
I would not.
I'm going to take that as a no.
Of their identity, no. We should be embracing gender diversity.
Well, I think
we should be
that's
embracing
enough.
sexual.
I think we can all work it out now. These distressed people. You wouldn't cure them if you could do it in a pill.
Let her answer that.
The way to cure the distress of these people is to stop people like you with your discriminatory, prejudiced and biased attitudes saying that they don't exist or they shouldn't be allowed.
Nope, not true. If you're trans and worth your fucking salt, you have a thick skin and you don't give a fuck what someone like Kelly J. Keane thinks.
To exist. We are a beautifully diverse human nature. We have gender diversity, we have sexual diversity, and it's beautiful. It's part of...
Like, just let trans people integrate within reason, which plenty of trans people are able to. That used to be me. I don't know, man. I used to go out, I used to work. I used to work in an office and like a pub and other shit like that. In general, people didn't give a fuck that I was trans. People didn't give a shit. Even working in Spoons. Like 10 years ago, around the Brexit referendum, in a town that largely voted Brexit. Overwhelmingly, people didn't really give a fuck. People were nasty to me and shit. But it wasn't the majority. It was like a small minority. It was a small, loud minority of people. Like, I feel like we have what we need. It just needs to be reasonable. Like, we start pushing for this like trans kids stuff, it stops being reasonable to people and they start seeing trans people as a threat rather than just a part of society. And it draws attention to us that plenty of us don't fucking want.
Of who we are. Colour, shape, size, feet, hormone levels, and we should be embracing that. I don't want to cure that at all.
No, I can see.
But you mentioned operations actually, and shall I tell you how we avoid having the breasts cut off? Puberty blockers.
Brilliant.
Puberty blockers stop breast development in trans people, in trans guys, and that means we don't need the breasts cut off.
So
they prevent.
Helen, what would
Yes, but what else do they need because of that treatment? What other side effects are there going to be?
you like to see as government policy in relation to this issue in the UK? Are you happy with where we are? What would you like to be changed?
I think what we need zero tolerance on transphobia. And we see transphobia everywhere. We're seeing it here.
Nope, fuck that shit. Retarded. Free speech is good, in fact. People are going to be transphobic sometimes. That's just how it is. You get on with your life. You know, where it's like the kind of discrimination that makes it like hard to work and shit like that. Yeah, I'd agree. But zero tolerance on transphobia. I just lock everyone up that's been even slightly transphobic. That's fucking ridiculous, man. We're not locking up enough people for like bullshit reasons, you know what I mean? Like,
here in this room, we're seeing it online, we see it in comments, we see it in our media.
yeah, she's literally saying she doesn't want people like this to be able to express their views. That has led to a lot of this backlash. People have been feeling like they can't say what they want to say. And now you look at someone like Billboard Steve and it's like, you can fucking stand around in a billboard for over a year. Ain't no problems. Occasionally the police ask what the fuck you're doing there and then move on. Now you can talk about it. Now we don't need to fucking complain about that shit anymore. You can express what you want to express. And it's fine. People are going to agree with you. People are going to disagree with you. She wants to go back to the kind of shit that makes people like Billboard Steve. This doesn't work. Like, would I get criminalized for being fucking transphobic? You know what I mean? If I don't think someone's trans, if I misgender someone because they don't look like what they fucking say they are, or I don't believe them, or I think that it's beyond the pale being expected to refer to certain people as a she. Like, it's just nuts.
Yeah, and these are real people who are really hurting.
She wants to speed run society hating people, trans people, as much as humanly fucking possible.
Because of the transphobia that we are permitting in this country at the moment.
And when you say zero tolerance, what if someone leaves a transphobic comment under this video, what would you like to happen to them?
I think it needs to be removed.
By whom?
By the moderator of this. I mean, I presume you are responsible for
so what happens to the moderator if they don't then?
the comments underneath your videos.
No, we're not. Well, of course we can't be.
Who does then?
What do you mean?
Well,
YouTube blocks some comments, but apart from that...
No, but you can go into YouTube.
We can, but we don't have a
So
responsibility.
what, she thinks he should have to? Otherwise what? Again, she just defers it. She just defers it. What should happen to them then?
To do that. People leave comments because they're expressing their opinion.
Okay, well, on my videos on YouTube, if I have people there who are homophobic, racist, transphobic, anyphobic, I would, and if I see it, I would...
Yeah, the problem with this is people are then going to describe or define things as transphobic that aren't. And then you get the situations where someone says that actually human sex is a real thing and it's kind of important in some ways. And then that's transphobic. That's the problem with that kind of shit.
Remove it. I wouldn't allow it. It's
but
not,
would you like the government to do something about that?
The government should have a zero tolerance.
So that's what I'm asking. What should they do?
Okay, so we have a personal responsibility. We have a social responsibility. Organisations such as yours have a responsibility to not allow people to be hurt. And
to not allow people to be hurt?
Yeah, because
she doesn't have a responsibility to not push the kind of ideas that make people fucking hate us and resent us. Okay.
Comments hurt. Comments cost lives.
So no one on the show should ever be...
Comments cost what?
Yeah, because comments hurt. Comments cost lives.
So no...
This is so fucking stupid, bro. You can't, like, someone makes a nasty comment, someone kills themselves. You can't put that on the person who made the comments door.
No one on the show should ever be allowed to say something that someone might find hurtful.
Well, it depends what you say. Someone might sound hurtful. I'm talking about properly.
Well, there are people who find you're perfectly entitled to your views, but there are people who will find some of the things you say, quote unquote, offensive and unpleasant and obnoxious and whatever. But presumably you wouldn't.
I find lots of what she says offensive. She literally thinks that trans people are trans because they're delusional.
You wouldn't want your view to not be heard on the show.
Well, in law, we call that discrimination by association. So I received discrimination, hate, bias because of my association with transgender people, and that's discrimination by association. But you asked me what the government should do.
What I'm saying is some people find your views offensive. Should you be prevented from speaking in public? because I invited you both on for us to talk about these issues, which we have done, but you seem to be saying that people who don't agree with you shouldn't be allowed to express their opinion.
I'm talking about transphobic comments. I'm talking about comments.
You say that they happened here. I didn't hear any transphobic comments. I heard people disagreeing about a really huge controversial issue.
I heard Kelly purposefully misgendering.
Oh my God, bro. Just stop. Just fucking stop, man.
Trans women. That's misgendering is a hate.
So what should happen?
Is misgendering even a hate crime? I don't think it is. I think it can be, depending on how you do it. The way Kelly J. Keane did it, I don't think that's a hate crime. And it shouldn't be a hate crime. Again, this is the kind of shit that makes people resent us. You know what I mean? It's not a hate crime. Labour was saying, whenever Starmer was still around as the Prime Minister, they were saying they weren't going to make it a hate crime. It's not fucking hate crime. What are you talking about? There was a petition in 2022 trying to make it a hate crime. There was a Telegraph article, Labour will not make misgendering people a hate crime, from 2 years ago when Keir was still in. Now, what are we saying? And like that's the kind of shit that makes people resent us, because to some people, they see a male person, that to them is a man, so they call them a he. And so you're telling them that they can't say what they think. You're telling them that they can't express how they see the world. That doesn't fucking work. You want to call me a he, fucking go ahead. I don't give a shit. Because it's not up to me how other people speak.
That's a hate crime.
If you have a look on the
if you
it's not even true. She's just talking bollocks.
say if you say Elliot Page is actually Ellen Page, that's a hate crime.
It depends how far you go with it. Those four
okay, so misgendering isn't necessarily a hate crime.
words. Elliot Page is 5 words. Ellen Page is, it's not exactly a very hateful.
But that's misgendering, right? Dead naming or whatever it is.
Yeah, but it's how.
Is that a hate crime?
A hate crime is when you purposefully target and incite hatred of a group of people or a person.
So just completely walking back what she just said. Wow.
Who has a particular.
But you said Kelly was committing a hate crime by misgendering someone who she didn't even.
Yeah, how was she inciting hatred on that person? She was like deliberately not giving like identifying information. I mean, they gave like age and stuff. That's not inciting hate. She just says these things. It gets pointed out that it's complete nonsense and just kind of walks it back and like changes it to like match.
A name.
But that person exists. And if that person.
But how is it inciting hatred towards them if no one even knows who they are?
It's the group, isn't it? The protected characteristic of gender identity. And
how is it that either?
In this country at the moment, transgender people are suffering, and we are standing idly by and allowing it.
But let's not kill them.
No, you're contributing to it, is what you're doing. And you think we're delusional.
Hold on. So she misgendered someone, according to you, who she didn't name. That's a hate crime. So what should happen?
Misgendering is a hate crime.
So what should happen to her?
But oh my, it's so fucking annoying. It's so annoying.
What should happen to her?
Yeah.
Well, I think if you.
But she literally said, dead naming Elliot Page isn't necessarily a hate crime. You use a sentence where it's like, Elliot Page tied her shoelaces. That's misgendering, which is a hate crime, but it's not really inciting hate. It's just using a specific pronoun that someone might not prefer, which is not a hate crime. So is it a hate crime or not? It doesn't make any sense.
You were a responsible podcast host. I think you would apologise to the people who are listening.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
Here.
Yeah, but what should happen to me?
But what should happen to her? You said it's a hate crime.
And you said the government should get involved. What do you think they should do?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Okay. People who commit hate crimes, obviously there's a broad severity thing going on.
But what do you think should happen? I asked you what the policies on.
He finally broke her.
But what do you think should happen? I asked you.
Fuck.
Thing going on.
But what do you think should happen?
Helen.exe has stopped working.
I asked you what the policy.
That was like a good few seconds that she froze in place there. Oh shit! I'm out of ducks and dodges.
On this issue should be, and the first thing you said, nothing to do with the medical side, you said there's too much transphobia, we need to crack down, zero tolerance.
Yeah.
What should happen to Kelly and
So repeat
others?
offenders.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you mean?
Yes.
Well, I don't know what the civil punishment should be, but in courts you can get fined money. You can get
Okay, let's drag loads of people to court for misgendering. Let's spend shit tons of public money, shit tons of money that we could be spending on helping trans people. Maybe we could expand some of the GICs and shit like that. Nah, instead, let's take all these people to court for calling a trans woman a he too many times. Amazing. That's totally not going to make us even more hated. Definitely not.
away.
So you'd like me to go to prison?
But prison, I'd love to see it. Yeah. So why?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ! I almost wish that. Nah, I don't think she should go to prison. She doesn't do her fucking child catching shit in the UK anymore.
Because attitudes like this hurt really badly, and when we say
No, they don't.
hurt, it's not just that hurts. They cost lives.
Not true. And if it is true, then there were fucking deeper issues. And if someone's that thin-skinned, they shouldn't transition.
The incidence of self-harm and suicide in transgender people in this country is very high, and it's...
There we go. Always comes back to that. Should we get rid of misandry? Should we make misandry a specific offence? Because middle-aged men are also very likely to kill themselves compared to the rest of the population. Am I still live? It says I am. Okay.
Don't cure it though. Don't cure these.
Do you not see that
people.
I'm really sorry if I'm ignoring chats. The last chat that I can see was ages ago, and it's not showing. Actually, wait, hang on. If people have been like talking to me and I've been ignoring you, I'm so sorry. Let me just check really quickly. I'm sorry. Ooh, no, not that trans sports, because I've been arguing that one. Not that one. Hang on. Okay, yeah, I've been ignoring chat. I'm so sorry. It's not coming up on my OBS for some reason. I love you all. Make sure you like the stream. Don't forget you can super chat, etc.
This is a free speech conversation, which is really interesting to me. Do you not see how your argument could be flipped against you? Do you not? Because it's not that hard. Like somebody could say, you're someone who encourages and facilitates medical transition of children, which has been proved in some cases because there are people who have said it was the wrong decision for me. I'm not saying in your case specifically, but generally speaking, a terrible thing for the people who did it to themselves. I can give you an example as long as your arm, if you like. That is harm. Therefore, people who express your opinion should be the ones going to prison. It's not that hard to prove, right?
Well, gender incongruence is a protected characteristic in this country, okay?
I'm asking you on a matter of principle, not on a matter of law. Like, what you believe should happen.
You're asking me what punishment should happen.
Should happen, not the law, but what should happen.
So we need to start with the law, because that's how you...
The free speech principle. Do you not understand free speech?
Can I finish? Because now we're going to
let her answer, and then we'll talk to you.
So the law protects transgender people. Okay,
yes.
It protects them against bias, discrimination, harassment, hatred.
Yes.
And yet we in this country are allowing it, and we have a personal responsibility. We have
you have to allow hate.
Corporate responsibility, and we have a political responsibility to not allow it.
So
that's ridiculous.
You'd like me never to invite anyone who has the views that Kelly has on the show. Well, you'd like to ideally to go to prison and criminalize.
I smiled when you said that.
People who leave comments on YouTube. Is that what you're saying?
You've really summed that up in a kind of negative way. But I'm listening to
I just repeated what you said.
Okay, you coined a phrase. The people you've had on this show, from what I'm hearing, are people like.
She's like Jordan Peterson in a way. Like whenever you saw those kind of things where he'd like hint at something and go like 99% of the way there, and then the person interviewing will ask, Oh, so then you're saying this then, which is just the very obvious, like, extraction of what he's saying. Oh, no, I don't think that. Oh, no. Come on, man.
Buck Angel and Hannah Barnes and some detransitioners. I'm like, you know...
We also had India Willoughby on the show and lots of others.
Okay, good. Well, you haven't mentioned those, so I apologise if you've had...
India Willoughby is also a fucking idiot.
...had a broad spectrum of people.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know what your comments are like. I haven't looked at your show, but if you're platforming people like Kelly...
His YouTube comments, who cares?
...which then encourages a blast of hateful comments, I think you have a social responsibility to do something about that, because...
That's fucking ridiculous.
Why did you agree to this debate? Why did you agree to participate in this debate if you think this debate is hurtful?
You very kindly invited me to come and give my opinion.
But you knew that Kelly would be here, who you think should be in prison for her comments. And now you're putting the blame on me for a debate you're participating
in many ways,
on.
you're helping all of your audience listen to my terribly transphobic views. So by association,
look, I'm not
maybe
taking
you should
sides
go
here.
to prison.
This argument just makes no sense to me. You're not attacking. You're criticizing me for platforming someone who you're platforming by agreeing to a debate.
Yeah, this wouldn't be happening if she didn't show up.
Thank you.
What do you want? I don't understand what you want me to say.
God. It just doesn't fucking work. It just doesn't work.
I want you to explain why I'm irresponsible by hosting a debate that you want to be part of.
I'm here to make sure that views like this don't go unchallenged.
That's great. That's what I believe. Views should be challenged. Yeah.
I would like to see a position.
But you don't want views to be challenged. You want just have your view and have these people shut up. That's what you want.
I really would like these people to shut up, definitely, because they cause so much hate and hurt.
Yeah, he did have Brianna Wu on.
And lives lost.
Bring it on.
What I would really like is for this kind of show to bring on experts like myself and real people who are involved.
You're here. That's why I brought you on.
Imagine if instead of this conversation, we were having a conversation with an expert in gender identity.
Imagine no possessions. I thought she was the expert in gender identity. Apparently not.
And a transgender person or persons or a family.
That's not ideas being challenged. That's one worldview being presented.
And imagine that we, instead of this kind of show, we were celebrating the beauty of gender diversity and explaining to your viewers with real people about how wonderful being the human nature and new human diversity is. That would be amazing. And maybe we'll get there one day.
Okay.
Truly the most imagine no possessions take I've ever heard in my life.
So you don't want this to be debated, you just want your opinion to be communicated to the public?
Well, it depends what you're debating. If you're debating the existence of gender diversity, which is actually and what's going on here.
I think I've got your position. Kelly, what would you like to see as the policies in this country and the law around all of these issues?
I'd like to scrap the GRA 2004. I'd like no single person Gender Recognition Act, which basically was... it was a kindness to a very small cohort of people. Now there's a mass explosion of people that claim to be the opposite sex. So I would like there to be no legal way of those people to stake a claim as the opposite sex. So remove it from their markers. I'd like to go back to pre-2000.
I don't know if I agree with this, but I also wouldn't give a shit. I don't even have a GRC. I don't actually care whether I'm technically or legally male or female. None of that actually matters to me. I don't really give a shit what the government thinks of me, you know.
2004.
Again, it's like, you wonder how you're supposed to square this with like the kind of radical punk rock position that people pretend they have, where it's like, fuck the government. But also we care so much what the government thinks of us. They have to think of us as the gender identity we definitely fucking are. Like, why do you care? You hate the government. I don't know, man. It doesn't make sense.
Including the Equality Act 2010, I think gender identity, which has been stretched, is very elastic. So it started as gender reassignment, which was someone definitely intending on surgery. And now what it is anyone who sort of said, well, I'd like to dye my hair blue and I once had a queer relationship. And now they're sort of included in that cohort. So I want all men out of women's spaces. I want all boys out of girls' changing rooms. I want schools to stop teaching this absolute nonsense.
I agree it shouldn't be in schools, but Labour are saying that they don't want everyone having a gender identity being treated as fact.
I want it to be removed out of all of our institutions. I would like to see the state no longer getting involved, and I would like to see the NHS very, very dramatically, quickly, like yesterday, stop treating this as anything that needs medicalising at the very most.
This I disagree with.
If a child presents like this, I think they should be taken into some sort of counselling.
Well, children aren't going to be transitioning because that isn't legal. I think adults should be able to transition on the NHS. Fuck it. I was able to. It's always going to be something that people are going to want to do. Doesn't really make sense that trans is like a rich man's thing only. I mean, even though it kind of is. Like, the only trans women that ever pass are like older, richer transitioners. And I guess some of the ones that start as kids, but a lot of them get really fat for some reason.
And find out exactly what has happened and give them sort of talking therapies and nothing more. The NHS needs to have nothing to do with this. For example, there's a Chelsea and Westminster hospital. They're just about to open a wing to try and do as many phalloplasties as possible. Phalloplasties don't work. They don't produce a girl.
I'm on the fence about phalloplasty. Phalloplasty is fucking crazy, to be honest.
With a functioning penis. Surprise, surprise. And then I would like to see some criminal responsibility for people who have harmed children, like Helen Webberley. I would like to see those people criminalised.
Great, you both want each other in prison. Fantastic.
But not for words. Yeah. I mean, for genuine, actual harm to
What would
kids.
happen in your kind of ideal worldview to somebody who has transitioned, whatever that means, now has a passport as which says that they're a man, they used to be a woman, living their life perfectly fine, dressing as a woman, behaving as a woman, have adjusted their body, etc. You'd strip them of that passport and
I would take that back, yeah.
Why?
Because what is that passport for? Like, if the passport is just if it wasn't
to enable them
used,
to live as a woman, right? That's what it's for.
Well, you can't live as a woman if you're a man, and also that enables what
That really depends. I mean, it's gonna vary from person to person. But if everyone around you thinks you're a woman, you're like your name is female, is a woman's name. You look like a woman. In a lot of ways, you kind of are.
What that Gender Recognition Act did is it gave men license to say, oh, I'm legally recognised as a woman, therefore I can come in these spaces, or I can have rights to these pension rights, or whatever women's rights that they've decided they wanted. There's a reason they chose to have F on their passport, and it's not because it doesn't make any difference. And by them having F on their passport, it makes a difference to my rights as a woman. So I'd like that to just be taken back. Now that
See, you could say, well, having a passport, I mean, no one gets their passport out to use like the toilet or whatever shit anyway. I don't know, a lot of this shit I don't actually care that much about. I wouldn't care if the government got rid of this shit. I don't care that much that it's still allowed.
It doesn't mean that anybody needs beating up in the streets, and as long as they stay out of women's spaces, and as long as they don't encroach upon my life and the rights of and the lives and rights of women, so not in hospital wards, etc. Go for your life. It's none of my business. I'd rather you keep your fetish at home, but as long as it's not in my face, it's not. It's none of my business. It's like people that smoke, just don't blow it.
Assuming the fetish thing as well. She does like to pull out a lot of the stupid, like, turf cliches.
In my face, I don't have to be part of it.
Well, it's not that simple, though, is it? Because what you were talking about is a conflict between people's rights. It's impossible to resolve. Like, there is a direct conflict. If there are people who say, I want to identify as a woman, that will inevitably means some conflict with women's rights. So that's why this whole debate.
I would love to know, like, from someone like Kelly J. Keane, if they saw someone like me in the street, what would they consider me putting my fetish in their face, Like, if I'm dressed a certain way, I don't know. Like, I just kind of am this. I can't really change out of it anymore,
Is happening.
Yeah,
right?
But if the state didn't get involved, it wouldn't be the same, would it?
Well, if the state didn't get involved, then people who identify as a woman would be forced to go as a woman into a male toilet and a male changing room, etc., which, for some of them would be very difficult.
Yeah, but that's not my problem as a woman. I'm just concerned with women-only spaces. I just don't want them in. So whether we spend money on a third space, whether they go in the men's space, I really don't care. They're just not coming in women's spaces.
We've got to wrap up. So Helen, any last thoughts before we wrap
I
this
mean,
up?
I find
Can I just say, I have never came in a woman's space, like ever.
that view so selfish. You know, just those words, it affects me as a woman. I mean, it's just the most selfish thing I've ever heard. And for
The
that
problem is people are being selfish as fuck on both sides and no one wants to compromise, so hey.
person over there to say, what would you do to a trans woman's passport? I would strip her of it. And then, you know, it's just this is what really bothers me about this women's space thing. If you make a space for women, all women should be allowed in that space, trans women and cis women. And for one feminist over there to say,
Not
it affects
feminist.
me, I don't want them in my space. I mean, to me, it's just the most selfish thing I've ever heard.
Well, thank you both for coming.
But is it not also selfish to insist that you must be able to use their spaces, even if it's going to make them uncomfortable?
I obviously appreciated that we were unlikely to all agree with each other, but I actually think in terms of ventilating the issues, it was very productive, and hopefully no one
No, I disagree. I thought it was pretty shit.
is locked up as a result. Thank you so much for watching. Relax, relax. This is not an ad. I just wanted to let you know that you can watch this video without any
Fascinating. How are we doing? Sorry, I was ignoring chat for ages, so I'm just gonna have a quick look. I say that if you've been on Kick chat, then I'm completely ignoring you, but not intentionally. Yeah, wow. She did a video afterwards. I guess we'll look at that. I don't know how much longer I'm going because I went to watch this. I'm kind of just at the moment I'm just streaming when something comes up that I want to watch on stream and kind of go through. Like it would be good to get like a schedule because I know it's affecting my viewership. It's actually been quite good today though. It got over 50 at one point, which at the moment for me is really good. And I want to say thank you all for watching. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard right now. A lot going on. We'll see what this video was as well. So she's done a little cope video afterwards, which is nice. So she'll explain why actually it's right to consider trans people as delusional little children that can't do anything for themselves.
Sometimes people say things that I really disagree with, and sometimes those platforms that people have are quite big, and that nonsense needs challenging.
The idea that people have a gender identity, it doesn't match their body, and doctors like Helen will help them to overcome that. What's wrong with that?
Well, I think it's nonsense. I think the whole thing is nonsense.
It's really interesting that I'm put against these people who seem to have such expansive views on gender diversity and whether or not people should be included and whether or not people should have medical treatment and whether or not we should believe children when they say they're trans. And yet, I don't know where they seem to think that they have the authority or expertise to do that. Giving a puberty blocker switches off ovaries and testicles, and you replace the hormone that you've switched off with the opposite hormone so that their body's secondary sex characteristics develop in line with their gender identity.
But they don't have testicles, Helen. How does
Yeah, we still at no point actually defined gender identity in a satisfying kind of way, nor explained how it works where, you know, you can identify as like a different gender, but that's all it amounts to. Like, so we never got into what does it mean to identify, that kind of thing.
testosterone give puberty to someone without testicles and a penis?
Well, this again is why you don't understand medicine. Puberty blockers and hormone suppressants. People always forget that one, but a puberty blocker is simply a hormone suppressant, and there are other ones too. I won't go into all the details, but there are medicines like puberty blockers and suppressants that stop your body producing estrogen and testosterone. They stop your genitals and gonads from working.
Oh, she's not been pruning this comment section. Hello. So okay, quite a few of them are supportive. Seen this person before.
And they switch them off. And that stops the wrong hormone from acting on your body. And then what you can do is swap it and give it the medicine instead. So we can give you estrogen or give you testosterone in a medicine in the same way that we do anybody who hasn't got enough hormones or testosterone or estrogen. We can top it up and give them as a medicine. It's really easy, it's really clever, but it's not that scary thing that people are making it out to be.
Oh, I feel like I'm being spoken to like I'm 10, and it's making me like recoil.
You're just kind of switching hormones.
Don't listen to the mean women, children.
And it works really, really well.
What about testosterone?
It works well coming from the person that flogs it and makes money off of it. Okay, man. That's kind of like when cigarette companies tell you that actually you don't get cancer from cigarettes. They're perfectly safe.
I'm pushing young women into the menopause then?
No, the menopause means no hormones. So what you need to do is give the right amount.
Kelly J. Keane gave her a pretty easy own on this.
Of hormones so that they have what we call physiological levels of testosterone. So a trans guy, you're giving exactly the same amount of testosterone that their testicles would have produced if they had them.
Love to see her explain this one, because I've no idea how you'd know how much testosterone a person would have produced if they were born the other sex. No idea.
You mentioned HRT in women, and actually hormones are very, very important for everybody. I expect, being the age you are, that your ovaries don't work anymore. And I don't know whether you take HRT or not.
I don't. No. I'm au naturel.
Oh dear. I'll meet you in 10 years' time. It's
what do you mean by that? What's wrong with not having hormones and not
hormones
producing
are really
hormones?
important.
But what's wrong with not having them, Helen?
Want me to tell you or not?
Oh, this was retarded as well. See, she's just clip jimping though. She's just finding the bits where Kelly J. Keane said something stupid and like using it.
It's really important, whether it's testosterone hormone or estrogen hormone. What we do know is if you spend too much of your life without it, your bones are at risk, your brain is at risk of Alzheimer's, and your vagina will atrophy.
So if you like stop them or something, like puberty block,
exactly, and don't give them the opposite. Exactly.
Sounds awful.
We know hormones are important. We know that cisgender children or transgender children who start puberty late, they suffer. We don't want them to start puberty late. We want them to start puberty at a good time, like 12 or 13 or something like that, when they're old enough to manage it, but not too old that everyone else has already done it. And we also know that hormones are important at the other end of life. And so some people with testicles will just find that the testosterone levels will drop off. And the same people with ovaries, at round about 50, they stop working. But actually...
I wonder why this all people with ovaries, people with testicles shit hasn't taken off. I wonder why people don't talk like this all the time.
Those hormones are important for your cardiovascular system, for your cognitive function, for preventing things like dementia and early decline. They're important for your skin, for your sexual function. That, our hormones are important. So at whichever age you are, whatever end of life you are, sex hormones are important. So we don't want...
This is fucking unbearable. This is just picking out the little bits that Kelly J. Keane was like fucking super dumb on, which there were quite a few bits, to be perfectly honest. Like, the kind of claims that I want to hear explanations for, she's not going to explain. Because that's the thing. You base it in enough truth. And then push the lies. And then when challenged, retreat back to the truth. So you say all the things that are technically true. And never actually answer for the stuff that isn't. It's like so irritating. I don't know how people listen to this shit.
Late puberty, and we don't want early drop-off at the other end of life.
What's a test for a child that you'd say, yes, definitely, let's put that kid on puberty blockers? What's the test?
We talked about appendicitis. When you take a look at the stats on appendectomies, 40% of appendices are taken out without, and they're not... there was nothing wrong with them because we don't have a test. So in medicine, sometimes we don't have an X-ray or a brain scan or a blood test that tells us whether somebody has that thing or not. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But what we do have is criteria. So for example, with appendectomy, if you've got tummy pain there and you've got white cells there, then we kind of think, yep, you've probably got it. And with gender incongruence, which is I think what you're talking about, there are criteria. Has that person felt that their gender identity is different from the sex that they were assigned to birth for a long time?
Feelings.
Well, how else do you take somebody? It's
just the feelings of a child.
It's what they say to you. That's how they feel.
The feelings and the word of a child would make you give that child puberty blockers.
Okay, someone here is obsessed with Bernard Manning. I heard a rumor that this is Frida Wallace, but I don't know if that's true. someone else doing that. Oh, people said this about gay people. We're not talking about gay people anymore. Like, people think because a certain kind of complaint has been made about one group and been incorrect, that means that now you can never make that same point about another group, because then you're just doing the same thing. But that's just not true. It's like terrible fucking logic. Like, people think this is a point to just bring up the last version of it that was incorrect. But you're talking about two different things. That's a really annoying like tactic. Section 20. When did Section 28 have anything to do with trans people? It was about homosexuality. Oh, these people are fucking delusional. I hate everyone.
Blockers.
Well, I tell you what, I'm a mother of 5 and I listen to my child's feelings all the time. And for any person to say we must not listen to that child's feelings, it's just bizarre. So I've heard this before a lot. It's like this idea of feelings, you know, oh, it's just a feeling. And what isn't there a blood test or a scan or something like that? And, you know, it can't just be feelings. But there are lots of conditions. There are lots of situations in life where we go on feelings and there is no scan. There's no scan or blood test.
Which ones are comparable to completely changing your body and making that decision as a child? Sterilizing yourself, that kind of thing.
For depression or anxiety. There's no scan or blood test for autism. There's no scan or blood test for appendicitis. You know, there are some things that we just can't diagnose with
yeah, but there's no scan for autism. Yeah, but you also don't just get an autistic person to tell you that they're autistic and then you treat them for autism or whatever. Like, you observe behaviors and stuff. Like, it's not coming from them. It's not feelings. You don't diagnose autism based on feelings.
Brain with blood tests and scans, and what we have to do is listen. I'm always being told, oh, you can't just listen to feelings, and yet that's what doctors do all the time. Tell me how you're feeling. Sorry to interrupt. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching this video. I notice that some of you don't actually subscribe, and it would really help me if you did subscribe, and it will also make sure that you can get my next video.
Why am I? Fuck me, dude. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you for reminding me. Fuck you.
If you want to. So just click the button.
Is it a mental illness, mental
I click the button. There you go.
disorder? How would you
I
describe
don't really think it actually exists. I think it's a response to trauma, and I think we've given it a label, and I think that's very dangerous, giving...
You know, I don't think I can fucking deal with this, man. It's very easy to pick out the little bits that someone fucked up on and harp on at them. To me, this is like shower thought shit. This is the mark of a very insecure person, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can be asked with the webberley tent. I think it might be interesting to explore the idea that she treats trans people as delusional, you know what I mean? Because I fundamentally think that what she's describing is a delusional condition. But we've decided that this one uniquely has some kind of innate basis to it, but an innate basis that you cannot find. There is no way of seeing it, you just ask the person. And you could apply that logic to a lot of different things, but you never get an answer as to why it's different, why it should always be different. Yeah, sorry, let me just see. I think my chat's broken again. Oh, it is broken. There we go. I don't know what my OBS is doing. I'm so sorry. A witch in a fantasy book. A witch trying to convince a child to come into her house because she's got sweeties, maybe. She does the creepy, like, paternal kind of thing, which I really don't like. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of early, but I don't know what else. Can trauma make someone transgender? Well, yeah, presumably it can. ADHD, I mean, I don't know. When was the last trans man that you met that didn't have ADHD? Let's be real. Pretty grotesque. A lot of these are recent as well. Maybe that's probably why she said that she like prunes the comments. Probably the only one she hasn't got to yet are these recent ones. I would reply saying should have watched my video, but I don't know if I'm quite that douchey. And if she went on my channel, she'd probably find that I have talked shit about her too. Did she talk about this debate at all? Let me just see. I don't think she did, unless it was a live stream. No, I don't think she's talked about it since. Can't see anything. I also wonder. I wonder if she treats trans kids differently from trans adults. Because when she talks about trans kids, it's always they say, I am the other sex. I have a seriously hard time believing that adults come to her saying the same thing. The thing is, how do we treat delusional patients that are adults differently from those that are kids? I wonder. The other thing is, surely delusional disorders are a lot rarer in children. Because I'm pretty sure things like schizophrenia, don't they develop in your teens? Or at least usually. I guess maybe you'd get the odd kid that just kind of gets it straight away. Claims made by the originators of the Dutch protocol. I'm not sure. Maybe. I can't remember. If I have, then a while ago. Recognized more frequently. Because, I mean, it's very easy to see someone literally thinking they're the wrong sex as a delusion. That is basically what you're describing. That isn't typically how anyone describes trans. It's not typically like they literally think they are the other sex. And usually if you say, oh, it's a man who thinks he's a woman, that's apparently offensive. I think it's probably harder to tell when a kid's like showing genuine like delusional behavior as well, because kids say all sorts and like, you know, they play and stuff like that, and it's not, you're not necessarily meant to take things like literally from them. Yeah, so this paper says that schizophrenia generally onsets between 14 and 35. And the teenage years are early onset. So you don't really get like little kids with schizophrenia almost ever. Yeah, lower than 1 in 10,000 children. That's not a huge amount. But yeah, is it something that just becomes more easy to detect as someone gets older, I wonder? But I just wonder. I don't know. The thing is, there's a lot of stuff that I think it would have been good to dig into. Such as, okay, well, if what makes a transgender child rather than a gender non-conforming child is they come to you saying, I'm the other sex, I'm literally the other sex, because they look at the other sex and think they fit in more with it, which doesn't mean anything really, but whatever. Do we treat it differently in adults? Like, do we define it differently? Should we define it differently? I'm not sure. I'm trying to, I don't know how to verbalize what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm not sure this is helping me, to be honest. Oh. I didn't mean to click close. Oh well. Oh well. That's broken. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's about all I got for that. I might try and come up with something. There's probably not much point in editing something like this down. But yeah, I don't know. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If you want to support the channel further, please consider joining the channel. I'm not seeing many green names. We need more of those. I don't know. And maybe I'll be back in a couple of days. I don't know. I ain't making fuck all doing this, so it's hard to be motivated, to be honest. So I just watch stuff when I want to. If people want more regular stuff, then I don't know. It's got to be worth my while. Ultimately, it takes a lot of time. It's something that I'm like not always up for at the best of times. So yeah, I don't know, man. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna stop now. Have a good day.